All right, what's going on, everybody? We are another Hype's Watch live event. This is a Dance with Dragons, Daenerys IX, Song of Ice and Fire reread that we do. We have a special guest, Scav from Davos's Fingers. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, I do. I'm Scad. I'm with Davos Fingers. You can find us at our Tumblr site, which you can find in the notes there. It's just davosfingers.com. We're also active on Twitter at Davos Fingers. Oh, geez, hold on. Mute. All right.
It happens.
I went to the mute button and it wasn't there until it started. So anyway, yeah, best place to find us is at our Tumblr site, Davos Fingers. We're all also active on Twitter and Facebook. You can find us just searching Davos Fingers. Gmail, we are davosfingers@gmail.com. And I'm just one of three parts of the Davos Fingers group, trying to represent them. And hi, Brooke and Matt. I know you guys will watch later. They were both tied up today. But just excited to join you guys, the Hypers of the Watch, the Maesters of the Citadel, the Brotherhood Without Borders. Excited.
Well, thanks for coming, man. I really appreciate it. Sweet YFT.
Hello, everybody. I'm Anne, also known as Sweet YFT on the interweb. You can find me on YouTube or on Twitter. I'm on Twitter all the time. I am also the community manager for the Hype's Watch social media.
Which you do a very good job at.
No, I'm just starting now. No. So you can find the Hype's Watch on Twitter or on Google+. That's where you will find all the information concerning any of our group videos, because as you might have noticed, it's not always on the same channel. So it's the best place to know exactly what we are going to do is to follow us on Twitter or on Google+. And
all right.
That's all.
Thank you. Tink.
Hello, I'm Jasone, also known as Tinker Jasso. I have a channel on YouTube, also as Tinker Jasso. I'm also on Twitter. I try to be every day a little bit on Twitter, but I'm not great at it. I'm not the best at social media of the group, that's for certain. And I also want to introduce that Sweet YFT, T-Baby, and me, we've created a little group called the Clash of Queens, and we're doing our first video in 2 weeks. On a Saturday, and it's kind of like a Q&A. People have sent us questions, and we're all gonna talk about it and argue. It all came about because we have very different points of views, sometimes very opposite, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Sweet YFT, like she says, she's the one who's very great at social media, and will tweet it and hype it, and I'll also try to be there, but if you want to know more, the Hype's Watch page or Sweet YFT in my Twitter.
The ladies' man himself, Sir LT Giles.
What's up, everybody? Sir LT Giles here. And you can find me on YouTube at Sir LT Giles and Twitter at Sir LT Giles. My channel is pretty much variety. I love Game of Thrones, of course, but I do movie reviews and show reviews. And, you know, I have a series called how am I mind blank? Storytime LT. I'm sorry. But anyway, yeah, my channel, you never know what you're gonna get. But yeah, there's the Hype's Watch for life, baby.
James.
What's up, everybody? My name is James Michelle. I do a Song of Ice and Fire videos, of course. We'll be doing some other things here pretty soon, Star Wars stuff and stuff like that, top 10 videos. You can follow me on Twitter at jbush55. And even though the people that know me know that I'm a fan of the one true king of Westeros, Stannis of the House Baratheon, I had to rock my House Targaryen shirt today. Not because I'm a Targaryen fan, but because it was $5 at Kohl's.
All right, well, I'd like to give a shout-out to my man Justin JD the Dragon for suggesting this chapter. I completely forgot how awesome it was. You know, I started rereading it for this. I do have a quick chapter summary, and after that we will go with the Westeros.org description and breakdown of the chapter and kind of hear everybody's thoughts as we go along. Just a quick chapter summary. To celebrate her marriage and the newfound peace of Meereen, Daenerys accompanies her husband, Hizdahr Zo Loraq, to the reopening of the fighting pits. As she watches men and beasts kill each other, she reflects on the difficulties of ruling the city and on all the compromises she's had to make. However, the sight of a boar gutting a pit fighter is more than she can stand. As she's about to leave the pit, arrives Drogon, who starts feasting on the flesh of the slayed and wreaking havoc around him. Scared for her dragon's life, Dany jumps into the pit to try and subdue him. As she climbs onto his back to jerk off a spear that was planted there, Drogon's wings unfold and they both take off. Anne, do you wanna open up for us?
Oh, a lot of response. So I think we're gonna pretty much break down the. It's a really, first off, sorry, we were impressed at seeing how short of a chapter it was. We've covered, as you know, some very long chapters like the Clash of King prologues, and this one is a very short one, but very eventful and very exciting. We're gonna break it down pretty much in 3 parts, I guess, until they arrive at the fighting pits, then all the fighting scenes, and then Drogon's arrival and what ensues. So we open with a very intimate scene of Dany and her handmaids and Missandei getting ready to go there, and she does not want to go there. And should I?
Anybody else talking about Dany's kind of preparation going to Meereen? Does anybody have anything to say? Scad, James, Tinker, LT?
One thing that's interesting is you guys notice that Barristan tells Dany that the Unsullied won't be guarding her on this day, that it is the brazen beasts. Does that catch anyone's eye?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and she's defending them, right? She's like, there's brave men, you know, underneath those masks, you know. But then it draws into the question of who's actually underneath the mask.
I actually thought it was by her request that she used brazen beasts instead of Unsullied. This is meant to be a big day for Meereen, right? An announcement for the marriage, a celebration of that marriage to Hizdahr, a celebration of something that, while some people think barbaric, Dany certainly does, the Meereen people hold in great esteem. It's something they're very proud of, these fighting pits. And having this occasion, I think Dany saw it as an opportunity to say, these are also your soldiers, these brazen beasts, these soldiers of Meereen. They're here to guard me with pride. I don't need to bring foreigner Unsullied in that I'm paying to do that. I trust Meereen. I trust these people, my people. So yeah, I thought that was Dany's call, actually, in a political move.
Mm-hmm. I love how she said that all I need is you, and she said that about Daenerys, and she was like, you know, as long as you're with me, that's all I care about, basically.
Well, and she also mentions strong belfast.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with Scott.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say that I agree with you. There's a big part of this chapter that is extremely political and very much about the burden of ruling and all the compromise that Dany has to make. And well, yeah, I don't want to get too much into it because it's more for the second part of the chapter. But yes, I think that's already a little echo of how could Dany rule Meereen.
So there's a little mention of the Tattered Prince in here. I know Don Willie's got a really good, strong opinion about the Tattered Prince, but I just kind of wanted to pick everybody's brain. Like, is he just a sellsword? Is he somebody more? Do you guys have any kind of idea who this guy could be?
Well, I said it earlier. If Euron can be Dario, why can't he be the Tattered Prince?
Oh, come on, please, James.
I'm kidding.
If Quaithe can be Benjen.
Yeah. Quaithe can be Benjen.
Varys is a mermaid, right?
Right. That's why you never see his feet.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I got it. What if the Tattered Prince is Rick Grimes?
Rick Grimes?
Yeah.
From The Walking Dead? Yeah. That's exactly who it is.
I'm very sorry. I totally missed that reference.
Oh, sweet. You don't watch The Walking Dead?
No, I don't. I don't watch a lot of TV.
Neither do I.
Like in all seriousness, though, like I have no clue who the Tattered Prince is.
Me neither. Theories of the Tattered Prince only came to me after watching other people's theories. I never came up with my own. You know, like it was never anything that I took a second thought at.
No, but even in the first read, I also, same thing as you. I never, anyway, on anything I never came up with an original theory of my own. But even in the first read, I was really, really intrigued by that character. He wants Pentos, but he was supposed to be ruler of Pentos and run away from it, and he's very mysterious, and he has all those little sentences, like the one when he says that he sounds almost Varys-like when he okay, when he takes off his rags, his tatters, he can become invisible and become anyone.
He is definitely a neat character upon further inspection.
I like the Tinker, the Tattered Prince is Klaus.
Say that again, LT.
Say that again.
The Tattered Prince is Klaus.
Klaus.
From,
Who's that?
from the originals.
And there's a reference that only me and LT are gonna get.
All right. What about Dany's allegiance to Illyrio? You know, about turning over Pentos. You know, she was like, this man that did everything for me. She was like, I just can't give that over. I can't like betray him. You know, like that. Like he's done so much for me.
Oh yeah, it's very surprising. With first chapter, Dany really mistrusts Illyrio, and yeah, like we all remember that all the thoughts that she has about him being able to betray her, just trying to sell her off and want to make money, and she's sort of telling Viserys that he shouldn't really trust that guy, that he probably has ulterior motives. But right now, I guess he was proved that Illyrio is really good at manipulating people. He managed to convince Dany with Barristan and Belwas and Groleo, that he was really on his side, and now she really trusts him.
Well,
I think it was. Sorry, go ahead, Tinker.
Well, what I'm saying is that I don't know if she trusts him completely, because it's very difficult for Dany to trust people. She's always thinking that someone might betray him. But I think at this point, it's the fact that Illyrio has not actually betrayed her when so many people have already betrayed her. And I think that Dany is a good person, even if she has some double standards and she doesn't have the best judgments, but she doesn't take betrayal well. So I think the fact that this person that was good to her and that has not betrayed her, and now they're like asking her to betray someone when she's so against betrayal, I don't think she could do that. I don't think this is not about trust or about being a friend, or it's just asking her to do just what she despises to a person that has been fair to her.
Well, in the end, she'll probably wish she did betray him.
Well, this chapter, she even lists the 3 betrayals of what she thinks it is.
Oh yeah, I want to talk about that.
But she doesn't know. Every time, and I actually, if you guys don't know, asearchofIceandFire.com, amazing, like the best resource in history.
Right.
It's really cool. But so I looked that up, the 3 betrayals, and tried to find everywhere where that gets mentioned and stuff. And it seems like every time she talks about it after the House of the Undying, when the big beating fucking heart says it to her, she questions it. She doesn't know where the betrayals are. She's pretty sure about Meereen, but the rest of them, she's always saying, "Was this a betrayal? Was that a betrayal? Is that one still coming?" She doesn't really know, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether she knows those are all there too. I think, to Tinker's point, I think that makes her really wary of trusting people, but also to Tinker's point, she's kind of a good person, I think. She wants to trust people. She just knows she always has to be on her guard. And so it's a dicey situation for her, something that, frankly, that rulers have to deal with regularly. I trust these people, but there's a lot on the line for me. And so, I think she doesn't want to screw over Illyrio. She doesn't know whether she can trust him or not necessarily, but imagine this. It's like with Illyrio, Sweet, you mentioned that she sent Belwas and Sir Grandfather and Grolio and the ships to bring them back. He also gave her the damn dragon's eggs. So it's and whether he knew that they were going to hatch or not, it's kind of like somebody giving you a lottery ticket and it ends up hitting. Like, you kind of can't hate that person forever. It doesn't matter what you thought of them before. It's like, that was my fortune, and you gave it to me, whether you knew it or not. I kind of can't hate you.
That's the way I see it. Do you believe that Illyrio intended for her to die in the Red Waste with the Dothraki?
In one of the recent episodes, Adava's Fingers, I think I said that I do. I believe that he sold her away to Drogo and the Khalasar to get rid of her. I don't know if he intended her to die necessarily, but I believe he was trying to pave the way for his own strategy, yeah. But I don't know how convinced I am, though. I mean, that's what I love about these books. There's so many possibilities, and you just don't know.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, my guess would be that he intended for Viserys to die there, and thinking that Dany would be she would have the Khalasar, and he could pretty much marry her off to Aegon or make her easily rally his cause later on. But he didn't need Dany to die, he needed Viserys to die.
Hey, sorry guys, I froze, so I'm back with you guys. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we seen it.
All right.
Yeah, so we're talking about the House of the Undying right now?
No.
Oh no, I want to. I just want to talk about it.
Go ahead.
When it's time. So what's really funny is that she's obsessed with 3 betrayals, but it's very clear in the chapter. It's 3 fires must you light, 3 mounts must you ride, 3 treasons will you know, and she never thinks that all of the 3s are connected. Which would be a way for her, to get clues. She never thinks about the fires or the treasons. I personally think that the second event of her life is going to happen like in between end of Dance with Dragon and and beginning of Winds of Winter. Who else also believes that that's her second big moment? No one? I'm alone. Okay.
No. I hear you.
3 fires.
I understand you.
Yeah, no. Her first big moment was the hatching of the dragon, of the prophecies of the House and the Undying, and I believe that she's about to have the second big event. There would be a fire, a mount, and a treason. So if we look at the fires. So 1 for life, it was Drogo's fire, then 1 for death, and we see that the dragons are now loose. There's a fire in the dragon pit. There's also now that a little bit later, when Quentyn frees the other 2 dragons, they set the city on fire. So could that be one of the 3 fires of the prophecy?
It's possible. It's like Scott said, anything is damn possible in this book. I mean, like, it's a wonderful idea. Like, if you want, we could take every single character and make them betray Daenerys in some way, some shape, form, or fashion. I just saw James say that he doesn't believe that Jorah is one of the betrayals. Me neither. Like, I don't know. I'm too much on, Jorah's side for that. But,
well, I just believe that. I was just saying, I just believe that Jorah is not a betrayal for love because Dany didn't love him back, and he did not a betrayer for gold because he was betraying her for a pardon. He wasn't betraying her for gold. So I just don't believe he's one of the betrayals, though she seems to think that he is. But that's just my opinion.
Trust me, I've got lots of experience of love going one way. But I agree with you. I actually don't think that Jorah is a betrayal either. Because it's timing based, I guess. But he came around, right? He did betray her. He was selling information about her, but he came around in the end. And by the time she even figured it out, he was loyal again. And so I don't know. It's like a half betrayal.
I don't think it's a betrayal either because it didn't have a big enough consequence on her. Like the first one ended up with her baby's death, and eventually the consequence eventually ended up with the fire and the dragons. It was something huge. Jorah's wasn't big enough. Jorah eventually, as you say, went back to her and even stopped the poisoning. So
Yeah.
if his betrayal would have caused the baby to die, like Missy, I never know how to pronounce her bloody name.
Mary Masdor.
Yes, that one. Then yes, it would have been then I think it would have counted. But I don't think that it was big enough consequence on her
Yeah,
to count as one.
That's an interesting point.
Sorry.
Sorry, if I can just add one more thing. One little tiny thing. So that's the way I think too, Tinker, but also that's how I think as a reader. From Dany's perspective, if you try to get inside her skin, I think she could easily think of that as a betrayal. This is one person that she had complete trust in, and so she could think of it that way, I think, too. From our reader's perspective, we're seeing the whole story, and so we're like, well, there wasn't enough consequence to that. That can't be one of the
I
big
understand perfectly
thematic
why
betrayals.
I understand why Dany thinks so, and it's also why I perfectly understand why she exiled him. There's a lot of readers that say, oh, he didn't deserve it, this and that. I understand Dany. I understand perfectly well why she exiled him, and I think it's very well deserved. It must have hurt her a lot that someone that she trusted so implicitly, who she thought was the one person that was on her side, to hear that she betrayed him to the person that had destroyed her family? Forget it, I would have killed him.
What about the Brown Ben Plum though? I mean, like, I don't think that's the third one. You know,
Not
like I'm just
enough.
like meh. You know, like that's I don't know about that one.
Somebody had a theory. I can't remember who it is who made this video, so if anybody in the comments knows, go ahead and put it in there. But somebody had a theory because in the deleted scenes of season 5, or no 4, one of them. So when Missandei comes to Dany, it's a cutout scene. It's not in the show. It's a cutout scene. But she comes to Dany and she goes, "They'll never betray me." And somebody had a theory that Missandei's going to betray Daenerys. So possibly that could be one of the betrayals. I mean, who knows?
Could be. I also think. I mean, I personally think Dario will end up being one too. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I think Dario will be one.
I think Dario's gonna be dead before he can betray her.
But he's like ruling the Iron Islands right now. How can he die?
No, Dario's a hostage.
Dario is Euron.
Dario is Benjamin. You heard it here first.
Yeah, who's like
50th.
He's also disguised as the Green Grace. It's great.
And the grains.
No, but yeah, I think Dario, it seems like he has a target for the next suspect on his face. But yeah, so like to harken back to what I was saying, yes, it makes total sense. I agree, Tinker, that yes, for Dany, Jorah betrayed her. Jorah's betrayal was probably the worst for her and hurt her very deeply. But it's just that she doesn't. I'm still like. It's funny to me how she forgot 2/3 of the prophecy and only thinks about the betrayal and doesn't see how they're supposed to go together. I mean, the Mount to Dread is her riding Drogon, and the fire for death is probably dragon fire. Like really, like I think the dragons are going to kill everyone, and so. That's why she should think that, like, if she saw them as a pattern or things happening together, she would see that Jorah doesn't fit in the prophecy because he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tinker.
It's easy. It's easy to. Sorry. It's easy for us to go back and read that House of Undying and quibble over all the details and analyze them. Have you ever been in a conversation that was moving that fast with freaky, weird hearts glowing at you and wraiths like practically grabbing at you and your fantasy dragon flying above your shoulder? You ever been in that situation? I have. And it's hard to remember every detail of the conversation, right? It's like, oh, I latched onto this betrayal because I happen to not be looking at the weird beating heart. And so I remember that part. I imagine like that would mess with your head forever, and you'd only remember fragments. And as your life goes on, you would twist the words and remember different things. Man, it'd be rough for her. That, honestly, I said it before on one of our episodes, Davos Fingers. I think that House of the Undying experience was one of the worst things that could happen to her, because she's just going to second guess everything about everything.
Right.
Completely agree. Not only that, it also depends on the experiences that you have, what things really stand out to you, and how did she live? How did she grow up? Always running away, always expecting to be killed, running away from assassins. Look how she was betrayed by the... See, I can never say her name. About that woman. She lost her baby. Drogo is dead. Like, everything that's happened to her, and suddenly this weird freaky heart tells her she's going to be betrayed 3 times, and she's like, oh, what? I imagine that's the thing that she latches onto. And not only that, later Quaithe doesn't help either at all, or hasn't helped. I remember when, and with the whole don't trust anyone, the Kraken, this and that, and like, really, did she have to make her even more paranoid?
Yeah, well, it's like, I think it's kind of like George, showing like the dangers of prophecy and stuff. And like, if the son's son, if that part wasn't in the House of Undying prophecy, would she have spurned Quentyn Martell? Because she brings that up. She brings up that he is the son's son when she sees the Martell sigil.
Yeah.
Maybe she doesn't spurn him. Maybe,
Yeah.
Soon comes the pale mare, and after her the others, Kraken and the Dark Flame, Lion and Griffin, the Sun's Son and the Murmur's Dragon. Trust none of them. Remember the Undying. Beware the perfumed Semiskull. It's gonna drive her nuts.
Yeah.
That's gonna be all of her allies. The Kraken, Victarion, the Murmur's Son. That's gonna be Aegon, Junkon, all the people that are. I'm thinking that she's doing it so that she will lose. That every single ally that she might have, that she will not get close to anyone who might want to ally herself with her.
Good job, Tinker.
Yeah, I kind of think that the Tattered Prince could be that Murmur Dragon, because I still feel like he's Targ related, but it could be wrong. I'm just pulling that out of thin air. So yeah. Last thing on the House of the Undying, because yes, I know that is not the chapter we're studying today, but that's such a good chapter. I'm wondering, like, I did not come up with that idea, but some people posited that maybe the 3 treasons was actually her who was gonna betray 3 people, and that the first one, for blood, could be like her letting Viserys be killed and not trying to protect him. Could be her first betrayal. That could be for blood because he's her blood, and that she could be the one doing the next betrayal. So for gold, maybe not literally money, but she still doesn't have a lot of money. I mean, I don't really know how she's been living off on Meereen, because she arrived with really not a lot of money there, and she's been just taxing people to have some money, and she might need some later and do something more to get swords than really gold, but gold will buy you sell swords. So it could be also, I don't know, anyone else think that it could be her betraying 3 people?
Well, she might have already betrayed not 3 people, but the people of her people by marrying Hizdahr, because she needed it for the economy, and because she was all sieged up. She had to let them be slavers again, and they were doing it right there. So even if her people the people that she freed are freed, there are lots of slaves that are going to be made now. So technically, that could be another betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really a Dany fan, and I seriously consider most of her chapters boring. But I was very disappointed when she married Hizdahr. I really hated it.
I know, Tinker, you're gonna yell, but I kind of like Hizdahr. Like, he's not, yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
He's not a bad guy. He's fair. He's willing to compromise,
And he poisoned her. We know he did, because he sit there and he encouraged her to eat some, and Strong Bella ate him. So we know he tried to poison her.
We don't know he poisoned her, and James
I don't
has a
think he
theory
did
on that, but No.
And of course he's willing to compromise. He wants to be king. In Meereen, there weren't kings and queens like there are now with Dany. So he only had things to gain. Of course he's going to compromise to get up there. And he didn't even completely keep his word in this chapter. Remember when they're in the pits and they're going to release the lions on Tyrion and Penny? And she's like, you promised that they would be, like, they would know where they were going. And she actually has to stop it. So
Okay, we're jumping ahead a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're jumping.
We're-
Yeah,
we're
sorry,
jumping ahead a
sorry.
little bit.
But,
That's my fault. I'm sorry.
no.
Jumping ahead. Are we using a formula here?
We haven't even made it to the pits yet, guys.
No,
We
no,
haven't
no,
made it
no.
to the
We
pits.
haven't.
We haven't
Uh,
even made it to the bath at the opening of the chapter yet, have we?
Hey, if we want to take a step back, let's talk about all the great fruits and like dream. I can't remember all the names, but there was like a lot of great foods George mentioned about. Like I know Daenerys wanted. I can't remember the name, guys. Help me out here. It was like some kind of drink that Daenerys got offered, and like in the beginning of the chapter when they're dressing her up, and like that's what George does. He gets. I'll tell you. Fans, if you're watching, fans, I'll tell you right now, do not read these books on an empty stomach because you will get hungry. Because George always mentions food and a lot of great things. And
Capon and onions.
She would rather have drifted in the fragrant pool all day, eating iced fruit of silver trays and dreaming of the house with a red door. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah,
Yeah, and it's funny because then she says, "Oh, but a queen, like mostly for her people, not for herself." But I don't think any of us, non-queen or king, living for ourselves means just bathing all day and being served ice cold fruits. She doesn't really have a clear idea of the way people live.
Yeah, I mean, like any noble person, she's definitely disconnected from average life. But I think the concept she's pitching is right. Maybe the decision itself seems luxurious and maybe a little bit much, but she's right. And this is why I like Aegon. If I can make a comparison real quick, I think she does think of ruling the right way. She thinks of ruling as a responsibility. She might like being pampered in the baths and the handmaids and everything like that, but I think she still feels a responsibility to her people, and this is just that little statement is evidence of that.
And it's a good transition period on going to the pits, because on the way there's a guy that passes out from exhaustion and exposure, and she literally stops the caravan and she's like, pick that man up. It looks like he hasn't eaten in a fortnight. Like she pitches a fit, about this one guy that just like fell out, in front of, her on her way to the fighting pits. So it's like, yes, she does get pampered and everything, but she even makes a comment of, she was like, I can't make these people good, but I can make them a little less bad, and so she knows, and it goes back to all the compromises that she made, with even, opening the fighting pits, as an example, but she wants to do good. She has everybody's intentions in mind, and she's kind of like suppressing a lot of her feelings, a lot of her personal feelings, to try and be one with the people. So I just wanted to point that out on her way to the pits.
Is that horrible if I wanted... Sorry. Go ahead, whoever I'm interrupting.
go ahead, sweet.
No, because I wanted to mention two more things before we move on.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, Missandei. Missandei, Missandei, I never noticed how weird she was until I've reread all of those chapters.
What do you mean by weird?
Oh, this one here is, she talks like a faceless man. I'm not saying she's a faceless man. But she seems very well informed for a little scribe.
I like her.
I'm not saying I don't like her, Tinker. I'm not saying I don't like her. I'm saying she's suspicious. And why? Okay, Missandei does not want Dany to go to the pits. She cannot really be open with her. I mean, she speaks as frankly as she can, considering her position. But what does she say exactly? She says, "Why do you have to go?" Something like, "Why do you have to go to the pits?" Oh yes, she said, "Even if the pits must open today, must you, your grace, go yourself?" Asked Missandei. And I mean, that raised my suspicion. Why wouldn't Missandei want Dany to go to the pits? Has anyone have any idea?
Because she knew she was going to get poisoned.
Yeah.
No.
You guys got to remember, Missandei and Dany had a sexual relationship, so there's more to them than, you know.
What?
Yeah, Missandei's just trying to get it in, man. Like, she's
Yeah,
like, you know, since everybody's going to be out of the house, you know, we can get down.
What? 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 When are they had a sexual relationship? She's 12. She's not even 12. She's... No, she...
You don't remember? Sweet,
Yeah.
you don't remember?
This happened.
Yeah, they had a sexual relationship.
This happened.
Okay,
So
when?
That was
Dany was feeling. Actually, I'm not sure if it happened yet. Before this chapter, or after it happened though.
Well, after this
missing
chapter,
Dario,
she's
and
bye-bye.
she's needing comfort. Oh yeah, good point. So she's needing comfort or whatever. She's missing Dario, and she brings Missandei in to comfort her, and things happen. And Missandei just says, "Was it not Missandei? Was it somebody else?"
I thought it was Eerie.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Eerie.
was
Maybe it
Eerie.
was Eerie. All right.
Eerie is a sex slave trained in... I mean, I hope she's also in the book and not just in the TV show. But yeah, no, Eerie comforts her in the boat once after Jorah's kiss. And maybe, yeah, another time. But Missandei, like, I'm shocked. If someone, comment, people watching us, if someone can point me to a chatter saying that she's having sex with Missandei, I'm shocked. I'm probably quitting those books, but I want to know.
No, it didn't happen.
Coming up.
I'm pretty sure it was Eerie.
Yeah,
It was
that makes
Eerie.
sense. It
She's
makes sense.
10.
Yeah, I remember Eerie very vividly. But yeah, so yeah, except that maybe she poisoned the locust or she knows something. Like it's I found it weird that Missandei insists twice on Dany not going to fighting pits when Missandei knows. I mean, she's been trained in Asapor, with the masters, and she knows all about the royal protocol. And so it would make sense, like Barristan trying to stop her, or even an Unsullied saying, "Oh, you're sure you must go," because those people are not trained in protocol. But Missandei should know that she has to go for protocol. And I found it weird that, she tells her, "Oh, maybe you can stay in your bath. You don't have to go."
It was Eerie.
So
Eerie
it was-
becomes a paramour to the lonely Daenerys.
It
Daenerys
was
feels guilt
also
for this.
she was
It
not the
wasn't
bed
Missandei.
slave though. The bed slave was Dorea, I
Oh,
think.
sorry.
But Eerie was brought to teach her to ride, but did become her paramour, like Dawn just said. So yeah, my mistake. Sorry for misleading everyone.
Hey,
It was LT's fault. He brought it up.
Yeah, LT.
Yeah.
I guarantee you guys, Missandei and Daenerys have a sexual encounter. I guarantee you guys.
Sorry, I didn't hear you, LT. Can you repeat?
I said you guys that Missandei and Daenerys have a sexual encounter. I guarantee it.
Okay, I trust you. I need a link.
Me too. If you get it, forward it to me. So my response on Missandei Sweet is just like a lot of these characters. You can read into it or you can't. I mean, it could just be that Missandei thinks this is a powder keg. She's depending on what you think, she's either just very perceptive and sees this as a political powder keg, or yeah, she knows something and she's more than meets the eye. I think you could see it either way. I'm not on the Missandei faceless man, super more than meets the eye bandwagon myself, but I could see it. She's certainly an exceptional 11-year-old. But these books are filled with kind of exceptional young people. Maybe not that exceptional, but Bran warging into people is pretty
I
exceptional.
think the one connection is the languages, because we do know that the House of the Undying has a extensive knowledge of knowing different languages, and obviously Missandei knows a plethora of different languages.
She
But
does.
I don't know. I don't know if she is a faceless man or not. I'm not making any accusations.
Google it because I'm on my phone. But one of you guys with your laptops, Google it right now. to prove what I'm talking about, that Missandei and Daenerys have a different plan.
No, they don't. No.
I know it's 100. I know they do. I'm like 100% sure.
It happened with Eerie. Are you sure it was Missandei? You think it happened with Missandei and Eerie?
No, I'm sure.
That's a little explicit even for George.
I'm sorry.
But we can move on from the Missandei.
Well, yeah, that was one point that Anne had. You said that you had one more, right?
Yeah, but now I got very emotional and very confused about this whole new discovery of the books. Where was that? It was before. So we've talked about the Tattered Prince and Pretty Mary's, and him wanting Pentos. Whoa, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, very quickly, and this one is just a what if. This one is for obviously Jerry.
Oh God.
We're gonna talk a little bit about Quentyn. So when Missandei comes back, we've never seen her leave, but she comes back. She says, "So Your Grace the Queen bids you join him when you are dressed. The Prince Quentyn has come with his Dornish men. They beg a word if that would please you." So she says no, but what they've already had, he's already told her everything he had to tell her previously, and she said no. And because I don't know if we'll ever cover Quentyn again in those chapters, so I think now is the time. He has a very short time frame. So what would he want to talk to her about? If she had met them, could he have changed anything? And also, one thing I know is he's not in that chapter this much, but why did Dany bring him to the dragon pit and said, "I know what you want. You want fire and blood"? Like, that was an impulse. Like, I know it's not in this chapter. I know, I'm sorry, I'm dragging on the conversation, but they were discussing, and all of a sudden she felt the urge to bring him to the dragon pit and tell him, "I know what you want. You don't want me. You want fire and blood."
My opinion is that she kind of knew what Quinn was saying was kind of correct, but she didn't care. She's going to go where she wants, and she's going to keep on doing the same thing, and she just didn't care that Quinn, the whole pact and stuff, and she didn't. I remember me and Don and somebody else had we talked about this before, and it's like Quinn didn't really have a chance to speak his piece, to say the whole what he wanted to say, and she was convinced already.
I think that Quentyn just wanted to keep on trying because he's desperate. Like, how desperate can you get that you go to try to release the dragons and steal one of them? Like, that's how desperate he was in the end. I don't think it would have changed because, as we've mentioned, he's the sun's son, so she's already not trusting, and she's too desperate to make the peace in Meereen, and Quentyn couldn't get that for her. And honestly, I think Dany just wanted to scare him away. She knew that Quentyn wanted to marry her and make the alliance, and she already made a decision, and she thought, maybe if he sees my dragons, he'll get, like, scared away and leave as such. I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of Quentyn. I know that Jerry likes him, but it's just, I've never seen really much the point of him, taking account how he ends. I think he's just there to make things complicated with the Dornish later on.
I agree. I think Old Frog was trying to make one last ditch effort.
Old Frog.
It didn't work out for him.
Old Frog boy.
Yeah, Old Frog boy.
I like Quentyn. I mean, that guy, after seeing Drogon in the pit, as we're gonna see at the end of this chapter, he was ballsy enough to still try to free two freaking dragons. So I think, like, he deserves more credit than he's given. Like, he's seen what a dragon can do, and he's still going for it.
Like I always say, I always think Quentyn was a good guy, and he was just trying to please his father. It didn't work out for him in the end, in the long run.
I agree, James, and I think I agree with what Sweet's saying too. I like Quentyn as a person. He's one of the more redeemable people as POVs that we have. I still hate his POVs because I don't yet see the point. I know I've been forwarded a link which explains this all, and I haven't had time to digest it all. But regarding Quentyn, I think it's less about what Quentyn has to say that he's coming to talk to her, and more about what Dany feels about what he has to say. That she feels that anything he has to say isn't worth hearing. And it's less to do with him and more to do with the state of mind she's in. That's the way I see this. And I feel guilty because as I was prepping for this chapter, I read this chapter a bunch and did a bunch of research, but one of the things I didn't do that I wanted to was go back and reread all the Quentyn stuff because I don't remember a lot. And Sweet, just like you said, when he said this and then they never resolved what it was that he asked, that question hit me too immediately. What did he want? I never explored what he wanted here, and so I wanted to go back and try to piece together if I could see what it was that he wanted. If the conversations he'd had with his friends lead to some other path they may have had that I didn't remember, and I'm sorry but I didn't do that research. So I'm left with I wish I knew, and sadly I don't think George is ever going to tell us. We got
Yeah, no.
Well, if you're
he's got a million other things on his mind, and Quentin's dead now, so.
If you're ever struggling with a bout of insomnia, just put on a Quentyn chapter.
Yeah,
I'm aware.
I'm real happy that you have that kind of time in your life to put into Quentyn, because there's nothing there, and he just bores me, and I fall asleep. Like I couldn't go to sleep the other night, so I just put on some Quentyn audio chapters. Dude, I was out.
I agree with what you guys are saying. I definitely agree with what you guys are saying, but I think it was another bad move of Dany. Maybe she had loyal to Hizdahr, but if she would have accepted Quentyn's offer, that's 10,000 strong Dornish soldiers that she would have got.
I think she made a mistake, honestly.
Yeah, she actually did, and I don't think he pushed enough how far back their families actually go.
Mm-mm.
Like there's been Martells and Targaryens over and over and over, right?
No, yeah, I mean...
Here's where it goes, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Manny. I'm going to speak real quick. Here's where it goes. If Aegon's real and Arianna and him get married, then that's 10,000 soldiers to Aegon's cause. And, hey, sorry, Daenerys, you snooze, you lose.
Yeah, but if Aegon's real, what do you think Dany's going to do anyway?
She's going to have to She's going to have to... If Aegon is real, Daenerys will have to bend the knee. She will.
But I don't think she'll mind. That's my point. Dany has been fixated her whole life on being one of 2 remaining dragons. And when that turns out not to be true, I think she'll be overjoyed. I think she's a genuine enough person that she'd be happy if there was another heir, and she would lend her support. I actually believe that.
Definitely, and I always get confused with this, but just real quick, you guys can clarify this. Okay, so if Aegon's real, does that make him a stronger heir than Jon? If Jon is real, if Jon is Rhaegar and Lyanna's son, does that make Aegon above him in succession, or Jon?
If Aegon's real, he's number 1.
Because he would be older.
Yeah.
He's the older son of the first son, so he'd be.
Jon still be the Azor Ahai and the Princess Promise if Aegon's real?
Not really, because that could free up Dany to be. Azor Ahai, like she turns over the throne to Aegon, but it frees her up and her dragons to go and fight the good fight, with the others.
Why can you not be Azor Ahai and on the throne? Because no one's going to be on the throne if they're fighting the White. If it's the real long night, there's not going to be anyone on the throne during the long night.
And the 3 heads of the dragon could be Aegon, Dany, and Jon, dude. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I still don't think that's what the 3 heads of the dragons mean. But I said I would stop talking about the House of the Undying. But no, yeah, like we've seen. No, but I was asking that because in this chapter we see that, like we've discussed a little bit before we went live. What we really see in this chapter, and we'll see that even more in the next part of this chapter, is that Dany, because she's so young, so the bad part is she's fickle in her opinions, but the good part is that she's learning and really trying to see people's point of view on a problem. But she needs to spend a lot of time with those people to see their point of view. So I'm thinking that, like, if she'd had enough time with Quentyn, maybe he could have convinced her that she didn't have enough time. Like, Hizdahr managed to convince her pretty quickly on some things that she was really, really against, like just a couple weeks before. So maybe Quentyn just did not have enough time to spend with her.
Yeah.
Definitely, I agree.
Hizdahr also managed to convince her because she was in a pretty desperate situation with the things that were going on in Meereen. So it was like she giving her a way to fix everything, while Quentyn is not really giving her not a fix for everything. She's still stuck in Meereen. She still doesn't know how to fix things in Meereen. Yeah, she wants to get to Westeros eventually, but she doesn't know if it's gonna happen anytime soon. And even when she gets to Westeros, she would only have the Dornish. She still doesn't even know the situation in Westeros. So I think she would need a lot more time. Hizdahr got it there because the timing was really good. I've always felt that if he was not the Harpy, he was certainly working with the Harpy or working for the Harpy, and that they created the whole situation to arrange it for that exact moment for her to just say, okay, I'll get this, and then find a closer way to then kill her, which is why I think Hizdahr tried to poison her in this. I won't go into detail because we'll get to that, but I don't know. I think Quentyn would have had a little work to do.
Tinker, what I love about that is if what you said is true, then Sir Barristan's instincts were correct by arresting Hizdahr.
I love it when he arrests Hizdahr.
Oh, it was so epic, and that's what I hate why he's dead in the show. 'Cause who's gonna arrest? Oh, he's dead. Never mind. I'm sorry, but that was so epic in the book when he arrested him.
Yeah, they're both dead.
All right, can we make it to the pits?
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to read the second part here from Westeros.org. She then departs with her husband, and they arrive at the pits, where strong Belwas eats a bowl of fried locusts. Hizdahr tells his wife that they are tasty as well, but she declines as Dany is not interested in the spicy food. There are 20,000 spectators in the pit. As Hizdahr announces the fights, they chant her name, though they use the Giscari word for mother because they cannot pronounce her Westerosi name. Dany thinks to herself that it is not her they love, but the fighting.
And I know you guys are all going to disagree with me about this, but I planned on talking about this. I know Sean Bellis is a warrior, but I still think that he's a big, jolly fella, and Daenerys loves him, and she pats him on the shoulder, and yeah, he's a big, strong warrior, but he's a big, jolly fella.
Who?
Strong Belwas.
Oh. I'm really sorry, LT. I don't know. I have a hard time. Half of your sentences get cut. I don't hear them, so I'm sorry if I ask you to repeat parts.
He said that he's a great warrior, strong Belwas is, but he's a big, jolly fellow.
Oh, yeah.
He's like if Santa came to the fighting pits.
So we're going to... No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I always thought it was really cool how strong Belwas would, let himself get cut. And he's got all these scars all over him.
It's also a good way to get hepatitis.
Yep. And
I love how when I mentioned... I love how I mentioned when she said that as long as Sir Barristan is with me, I'm safe, and then Don, he said, you forgot strong Bellas.
Yeah.
So are we going to go into the honeyed locusts?
Yes, let's start with the honeyed locust.
Well, in this case, strong Belwas did actually save her. He ate all of the poison.
Okay, James, you've told us that you have a big theory on the honeyed locust, so why don't you start?
Okay. I can't take credit for this. I mean, it's based off of the Meereenese blot. Wrote a fantastic essay. I would suggest reading the Meereenese blot, especially their essay on who poisoned the honeyed locust. So, what the Meereenese blot believes, and what I believe now by proxy, is that Shapepate is the one who poisoned the honeyed locust. And I wrote down some things here. He keeps pushing to interrogate and torture Hizdahr, and he keeps pushing Dany to kill the noble family's children. Keep in mind that Shah Khaz's family was a noble family, and he was of a lower class than the other noble families, in particular Hizdahr's. and there was bad blood between their families. He opportunistically switches sides when Dany gets in control, and then wants to start executing the noble children. And he also wants to execute Hizdahr, whom by all accounts is one of the top nobles in Meereen. And he also keeps trying to push Dany and later Barristan to war with the Yunkish and the Quentyn. Dany refuses to execute the children, however, and also ends up marrying Hizdahr, which goes against what the Shape Hate wants, giving him the motivation to poison the locusts. Even if someone else eats the locusts, it sows discord between Dany's regime and the nobles by making it seem like the Harpies tried to poison her. Also keep in mind that on the day of Daznak's pit, it just so happened that Dany was being guarded by the Brazen Beasts and not the Unsullied, who is, of course, headed by Shakaz, the Shape Hate. Of course, after Dany has left Meereen via Drogon, it is the Shape Hate who comes to Barristan with a person who confesses it was Hizdahr who poisoned the locusts. Keep in mind, however, it was quoted earlier in Dany 5 that the Shape Hate is a very persuasive torturer. Here is the quote. The Brazen Beasts had taken dozens of the Harpy sons, and those who had survived their capture had yielded names when questioned sharply. Too many names, it seemed to her. So I believe that the Shape Hate is essentially Essos' Peter Baelish. He has pulled the strings and have sowed plenty of discord, and is putting himself into a prime position of power.
James, that was awesome. I just gotta say.
Yeah.
So,
I too refreshed on the Meereenese blot, James, this week. Spot on. I'm with them 100%. I didn't believe that until I read that this week, and I'm spot on agreement with them now.
Yeah, me too.
James does it again.
It's also motive. Which you've gotten to with the sowing discord a little bit, but he immediately joined Dany's side when she took over and kind of traded away from being with the Great Masters. And upon the marriage to Hizdahr, he basically lost any sway he had, and so he needs the situation to change. It's a Hail Mary at the end of a football game for those that can follow that. He's got to do something because his power base is lost now. So he's got the motive.
Well, yeah, but if Dany dies, we've already seen when Dany disappears, Hizdahr takes away his power. So it's a very risky move. And also, why is Hizdahr all the time telling Dany, eat? They're very sweet. You're gonna like them.
Well, I think the reason is he knows Hizdahr likes them, which Hizdahr indicates that he thinks they're delicious. So I think the target is actually not Dany, it's Hizdahr.
Well, but I mean that it's very risky. It's a food that he could have very easily eaten one of them, and then what happens?
It's very risky, but I think he was in a position where he was in a desperate position, I believe, because it wasn't his plan for Dany to marry Hizdahr, and not to kill the Meereenese noble's children.
He had less to lose, right? He had less to lose. If Dany eats him, she's not the target, but if she does, he's already out of favor. He's already out of power. This will at least sow discord and cause disruption, a la Peter Baelish, like James said.
Well,
and once again,
sorry, James, go ahead.
I was going to say, I would read the essay because they process it more eloquently than I can, and will do a better job convincing you.
Send the link.
Yeah, and everyone should read this essay. And I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the person writing the Meereenese blot, but he has, I think, now resumed. I mean, he stopped writing, and we all really want him to start writing more essays again. Like, he's one of those great essay writers, and so yeah, I really want the Meereenese blot to continue and have more great essays. So on the poison locust, I agree and disagree. I'm not sure. I mean, I totally agree. The Shape Page just jumped on the opportunity. I think he's more of an opportunist than really the poisoner of the locust. Like, he saw what happened, and then he found it as a perfect way to frame Hizdahr. He just moved first, But we're not, like, there are a lot of things. I know it's Occam's razor and it's the most obvious thing, but there's not even a proof that the locusts were poisoned, that it was the locusts that were poisoned. What made me a little suspicious is that, so they arrive and Belwas just jumps on the locust like right away, no questions asked, and he gulped down all the bowl like Cookie Monster style, and so, and that's just because like okay, like Hizdahr is not continuously pushing the locust on Dany. He just says it once from Dany's POV, and that's just when they sit down, and because he saw Belwas eating all of the locusts. Like if you like the way I read it, Strong Belwas bellowed "locust" as he seized the bowl and began to crunch them by the handful. Those are very tasty, advised Hizdahr. You ought to try a few yourself, my love. They're rolled in spice before the honey, so they are sweet and hot at once. So, let's say you're a husband and you buy this expensive treat for your wife, and you see the wife's bodyguard just like eating them really fast. Like you're probably gonna say, "Oh, you should, you should try one, because if you don't try one now, in 30 seconds there won't be any left." He doesn't really push them. He doesn't even have time to push the locust on Dany numerous times because Belwas ate them really quickly. And then right after that, Dany says, that explains the way Belwas is sweating. So he has not even finished eating the locust that he's already sweating. So he could have been sick from something he ate previously, because Belwas is eating all the time, as we know.
Belwas is...
Everybody's assuming that he's been poisoned by the locust, but there was no CSI finding poison trace in the locust. Like I'm not sure it's even that. And I really agree. I think the Shave Pate saw his opportunity to make his move and frame the whole thing on Hizdahr. I'm not sure that necessarily makes him a poisoner.
Well, regarding the locusts being what was poisoned, I agree with you. It seems like the Occam's razor reference is a good one, but they do later in the book. They actually question the confectioner that made it, and he could be lying, but they actually indicate, I think, that they were poisoned down the line later in the book.
Yeah, but he was questioned sharply by the Shave Pate. So as James has pointed it out, when he questions people sharply, they will tell him whatever he wants. Plus, that confession we hear, through Barristan's POV, coming from the Shave Pate's mouth, so he could be making that up.
Yeah, and Barristan is, I think we all seen, pretty easily misled. Easily, I don't know about duped, but I think he's just... He in equal parts trusts no one and then doesn't think not to trust things he hears. So he's kind of just... he's a soldier and not a thinker, in my opinion.
He's very Ned-like.
Off the top of my head, I can only think of one other person besides this that ate locusts, and that was John the Baptist in the Bible. He ate locusts.
Belwas was like me at a Chinese buffet, man.
Going ham. Everybody here, if you guys were in, I don't know what country it is, but I know there's some country out there that their delicacy is probably locusts. Would you guys eat them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll try anything once.
I would try it.
No.
Look, I'm a fat guy, but no, I'm not into eating bugs. I'll turn those down.
Oh, hey everybody, we got 2 tinkers here today. It's a special day. Special day.
Well, that's what 2 good women right there. 2.
All right. Does anybody have anything else about the honey locust, strong Belwas getting sick? I did put the description to the Meereenese blot or the link in the description box, so everybody that's watching, if you want to go back and read that later, it is there now. Do you guys want to talk about our special guest in the pit that we don't get a direct reference, or they don't necessarily say who he is, but I think we all know who he is?
Yeah. Well, before I wanted to just to say a little bit about the description of the fighting pit that it was really nice. I had totally forgotten about it before rereading it, and I'm not very familiar with American sports and American stadiums, but the description of the people selling food around them, peddlers were selling dog sausage, roast onions, and unborn puppies on a stick, and there was like I could just picture people at a baseball match, selling food.
Yeah,
And probably selling them for $14 a pop.
Yeah, butt scratcher, get your butt scratcher here, butt scratcher. That's a Family Guy reference for everybody. Family Guy.
I know this has been said before, but does everybody want to agree right now that Sweet Wife T's accent is very beautiful?
Nobody's agreeing, so we can move on.
I agree.
We agree.
I agree. Where did that question come from?
The top
LT
of LT's
style,
brain.
yeah.
That's
why we call him the ladies' man.
Yes, yeah, he curveballs every time.
Mm-mm.
All right, so let's get into the dwarfs. The first fight begins with the victory for the spotted cat, and there are many more after that. Following them, the first folly of the day begins with two dwarfs jousting, one on a pig and one on a dog. One dwarf has a shield painted in the colors of House Lannister, which amuses Daenerys. The one that falls off the pig is chased by the other on the dog when Hizdahr tells Dany that they are about to loose the lions. She tells them this is not in their agreement, that the dwarfs did not consent to this like the other fighters who died did, so she forbids that the lions slaughter the dwarfs. I found that borderline. If he wouldn't have said that, they would have sent a lion out there, and Tyrion would have been killed by a lion.
Definitely. And we all, Donnie, you weren't here, but we were all talking about this before you got here, about how Daenerys has a good heart. And right here, we all know that Daenerys saved Tyrion's ass. And it's because she has a good heart, man.
Yeah, but that's like, had she known that was Tyrion Lannister, he was so, she was, gonna kill him herself.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, she didn't know it was Tyrion, but she had compassion, and she felt bad, and she didn't want them to die. And, yeah, maybe if she knew it was Tyrion, she wouldn't have cared, but, she had compassion for these dwarves, and she spared Tyrion. And the funny thing is, Tyrion doesn't know, and it's like, it's a great thing. And that's what I said. I said, Daenerys has a good heart. She's questionable with all her decisions. She has a good heart, man.
And this is another example that Hizdahr should not be trusted. They made a deal about the pits, and he broke it. She had to, really say no again.
Yeah, go ahead.
After knowing how difficult it was for her to open the pits, how hard it was for her to, at the end, consent to this, how much she dislikes it, and he goes and pulls the shit. No, I don't like Hizdahr. I don't know if he's a pusher or not, but I don't like him, I don't trust him, and I want him to end up dead.
Well, look, I think Hizdahr certainly has his own motivations. That marriage is a business contract, and each one of them, Dany and Hizdahr, are going to do their best to push the boundaries in their direction. And in this case, it was I won't tell her that we're doing this. It's a slightly different circumstance than, is it a boy being volunteered or volunteering himself? It's a different circumstance. I just won't tell her about it to see what happens. But this is what this marriage is going to be like forever. By forever I mean until she flies away on Drogon in a few minutes. But this is what this relationship would be like. It's very tug of war all the time, negotiating, demanding your side, protecting your interests. That's what it's going to be like, and this is just an example of that to me. Hizdahr's just a guy with his own motivations, and that marriage was just the same thing to him as it was to her, a means to get something they want.
She saw a flash of anger in his eyes.
And the show has definitely spoiled it for us, because in the show, Hizdahr gets killed, so we know that the marriage is going to continue, and the show spoiled that for us.
Well, I don't think anyone thought that marriage would actually survive or just be successful. Did anyone actually think that?
You know what? And here's another thing, because Don the Kraken went there, and he's an Ironborn by trait. See, and Don, he probably is rooting for Victarion to ask Daenerys to marry him, and so since Hizdahr's out the way, Victarion will propose, and she'll say yes.
Do you think there's any chance Hizdahr knew who the dwarf were? Because Tyrion says at the auction block, if I remember correctly, if I don't, please stop me. Tyrion says, "I'm Tyrion Lannister." So Hizdahr's what's his name? Nurse. Nurse is the one who buys him. Knows he's Tyrion Lannister. Probably told Hizdahr. That's Hizdahr, the yellow whale. And the yellow whale is a very important Yankish master. Could he have told Hizdahr? I mean, is there any? Do you think there's any chance? Like, okay, just crazy. What if? Yeah, he wanted to for Tinker. Yes, he did something a little sly, but he knew that was Tyrion Lannister, and he wanted to offer a dead Lannister to his new bride, and that's why he broke the agreement. But just because he was Tyrion Lannister, and Penny was just a casualty of war, but.
Look, I think he could have just said, though...
Sorry, James.
I was going to say, I think if that was the case, though, he could have just said, hey, this is Tyrion Lannister.
Yeah.
But ruined the surprise?
Well, then,
I think
I don't know.
she would have relished it more if she'd have known, right?
Well, I mean, he's freaking wearing Lannister stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, how obvious damn do you want to make it?
It's never mentioned later. It's never. Hizdahr doesn't make a point when she tries to say no to the lions. He never mentions or never talks. Then nothing.
I got a question for you guys. I'm kind of oblivious, I can't remember. But where was Ser Jorah during the time? Was he like in the cells or something, or where was he?
What?
Where was Jorah?
Yes. Yeah, he probably was because. The last year in chapter, I remember, he was. They wanted to put Jorah as the bear for the Bear and the Maiden Fire in the show that was in the Yankish camp. They already had a murmur show, and Tyrion said, "Oh, he's not ready yet." So I think. But yeah, if Jorah had been there, that would have been an interesting what if.
We do know it's mentioned in this chapter that Hizdahr talks to some of the people from the Yunkish camp, so it's possible that he would have known that was Tyrion. I don't know what motive he would have necessarily. I'm also not even sure he knows that much about Westeros history. They know Dany. They know she's a Targaryen. They're hundreds, if not thousands, of miles away. I don't know if they know the history of the Lannisters storming the keep and murdering and helping with the murder of her family. I don't know if they know all of that. Maybe they would. I don't know. It's a possibility, but it's not something I think he would have engineered to happen.
I think you make a great point right there, brother.
Very, very possible. Do we want to talk about the other pit fighters a little bit before we move on to
Barcena Blackhair?
And we know what they say, bacon's bad for you.
Alright, up next is a bout between Barcena Blackhair and a boar. The fight goes well until the boar's tusk opens her up from the knee to the crotch. The boar then jumps on her, pulling out her entrails, all to the displeasure of the crowd. Daenerys insists on leaving as she is disgusted and no longer wants any part of this. Strong Belwas becomes sick from the locusts, asking for a drink of milk. Now right here for me, Daenerys says, like, I can't breathe. I gotta get out of here. She's borderline having a panic attack. Now I think it was kind of insinuated that Drogon kind of shows up later, you know, like because of the blood and the screams, and you know he just he can smell like fresh meat. Basically, that's the first thing that Drogon. We'll go over Drogon in a little bit. I just wanted to propose the idea of maybe it wasn't all the blood and gore going on. It wasn't the fighting. It wasn't the screams. It was his connection with Daenerys, that she was literally having a panic attack, and what if he could feel her? And that's why he showed up. But when he got there, shit kind of got out of control. I mean, he's basically a lizard. They're not supposed to have, you know, emotions and stuff like that. They are cold-blooded creatures that live just to basically eat.
Well, but he's not cold-blooded.
Well, you know what I mean. Like it's insinuated that it's a lizard. But we'll talk about the act when Drogon does show up. I just wanted to say, why did he show up? What was it strictly because of the food and the blood, or was it the connection that they're supposed to have?
Well, a
Maybe
little bit. Sorry, LT, go ahead.
I was just saying maybe it was the right place, right time, and he just happened to fly around. And I mean, it could be because she's having a panic attack, but it could be right place, right time.
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously narrative device. Ned needed to die for the story, and Drogon needed to arrive. But right before we were discussing, like, how come? Obviously, we don't have any POV of the dance of the dragons. We only see that through a Maester's writing. But how come the Targaryens of old? I mean, still in Westeros, could control dragons so well to get them fight exactly the way they wanted, but Dany can really not control Drogon, and we're thinking that maybe there was some kind of training, like the way all the Stark's kids are wargs, but the ones who get some training become stronger. Like Bran is going to become really strong because he has some training, and Varamir became a stronger warg because he was taught how to. So maybe there's some kind of connection, and maybe for it to work really well, there needs to be some training that Dany obviously doesn't have.
Or some knowledge.
Yes, yeah, knowledge, yeah. And there could be little remnants of that, initial connection untrained.
Well, what if she, let's say that the Targaryen blood was bound to the dragons way back when, years and years ago. And what if through diluting the blood throughout the years, basically when it shows up Daenerys' turn, she still has the connections with the dragons, but it's just not as strong as, previous, of course, Targaryens who had the stronger bond. Well, what if just the blood has been diluted throughout the years, that it's just not as strong?
But that's the reason they kept marrying each other, so it wouldn't dilute. She is the daughter of two Targaryen parents. Her parents were brother and sister.
Right,
So
I mean, but there was also
really
different...
dilute.
There's a couple of different houses, like throughout the history. I mean...
Yeah, but they married into one, and then they would marry each other again, and
Blood is definitely not the question here, and the reason why is because even in the Dance of Dragons, bastards could ride dragons. So blood's not the question, but it's like, the thing is like we said, and I mentioned the Star Wars thing in the pre-show, is that Daenerys has to find herself and learn how to control a dragon. And she will. We'll find this out next 2 weeks. That's my opinion.
Look, I would probably say it's probably a... No, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead, James. I'll round it out.
I was saying maybe perhaps it's just a combination of both things. Maybe there's a connection, and all the blood and all the stuff, and the commotion drew him in, and there's the connection. It could be a combination of both.
Yeah, I certainly believe that there's some sort of blood tie that's helping those relationships. But I don't think it's strong like the Stark bond with the direwolves is. It's not that strong. But I also think Dany's had a lot on her mind for a while. She hasn't had the time to spend with the dragons. They were put away in the pits for a while. She's been ruling, not spending time bonding and learning and being with her dragons. And so I think while the bond is there, maybe it isn't as refined as it could be. Maybe, Dawn, I think it's an interesting point about her stress. Maybe I don't know if it's like giving off a pheromone or something that brings Drogon back. But it's certainly obvious. Drogon's been gone for, I looked it up yesterday. He's been gone for about 5.5 months away from Dany, and it's certainly clear later. I know we're not quite there yet, but it's certainly clear later that she doesn't have the hold on him maybe that you'd expect, and so I think the connection's a little tremulous.
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
I also think that one of the things that they say in the books, that there's always one writer per dragon. That there's literally there's only one writer that writes one dragon, and she has 3 dragons. those dragons came to being through her. They think of her as her mother. So there's obviously some sort of link, because in the Dance of Dragons we see that the dragons that do not have a rider, be careful or they'll eat you alive. But all three of the dragons really love her, even if they're wild. So I think she never actually thought of training them. She started raising them like they were her children, and she constantly says, "These are my children." But then she's never disciplined them. She's never put limits. She's never, they're dragons. They're dangerous and they're big and they can just burn you to pieces. And when she realizes they can be dangerous, she just locks two of them up. And like you say,
Right.
she hasn't been with him. She hasn't trained them. She hasn't tried to get on Drogon and rode him the moment that he got big enough. She's just, these are my children. Are they monsters? Are they not? Has she tried to be with them? Has she taught them how to say Dracarys and burn, and that's about the extent of it.
Tigger, this is great commentary against or advice against teenage pregnancy. Well done.
Guys, and this is way off subject, but I just want to ask you guys this. So we're all in agreement right now that there's a big theory that Bran's going to work a dragon. So if Bran works a dragon, it's something completely different, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
that's
like the
different.
idea of Bran working a dragon at all. At all. I hate that theory so much.
Why? I love that theory.
God, the dragons are not gonna. Sorry, off topic. The dragons are not gonna save the day against the others. That's not gonna go down like that. That's
It is gonna go
ridiculous.
down to that. It is.
No, it's not.
I'm actually against warging overall. I think
Why?
it's
It's one of
invasive,
the
and
best things of the show, of the books.
I love the relationship the Starks have with the wolves, and that warging relationship I think is awesome because it's give and take. It's something that they both get benefit from. It's symbiotic, if you will. But other animals that don't have that connection with them, it seems invasive to me. And you only really get to see it when he's warging Hodor, which is to me, a very dark and almost violent thing that he's doing. But it's no different with other animals. They're not willing and they're not accepting of it, whereas the wolves are. And so yeah, I don't love the idea of him warging a dragon either. It's
mind
invasive to
control.
me. Yeah.
Oh, LT, can you please turn off your mic when you're moving your phone?
No, I'm sorry. I was connected the charger to my phone and dropped it.
But going back to what you were talking about with the dragons, I don't know about horses, but I assume if you have 3 horses and they're babies or whatever, and you raise them, but you never put a saddle on them, you never ride them, I'm sure that just because you're around them all the time, you can't just hop on them and expect to be able to ride them. If that makes any sense of what I'm saying.
Perfectly.
Yeah, no, that was a great. Sorry, great metaphor.
But I do think she has a link to them. I do think that Drogon might have sensed, I think he might have been attracted by all the blood and the fire and known that something was going on, but then later the show is not, we know last season was not faithful at all. And
No.
there were moments, but they did show a link between the dragons and Dany, and they like Dany a lot, and they like her relationship with the dragons, and the writers did imply that there was a link between the dragons and Dany, and that does make me convinced that there might be something there. After all, they did come to life through blood magic with her, so.
Yeah, but to go back to what we were saying a little bit, and also on Dany having a good heart, but being a little lost right now on what is right and what is wrong. We're talking comparing. James was just comparing training dragons to training horses. We could also compare it to training dogs. The first thing Dany trained pretty much her dragons to attack people with fire. It's like, imagine you have a pit bull, and the first thing you teach that pit bull is to freaking kill people. That was her first instinct, which is not necessarily the best one. Dracarys might not have been the best first thing to teach a dragon. And so I'm sorry. She's really happy with it when he kills the maester. No, the masters in Asapor. But then it kills a little girl, and she freaks out, and like, oh, I lost control of my pit bull. Oh my god, and just locks them. Like she gave up pretty easily. She was not. I mean, I'm not blaming her again. She's a little girl, but she was not ready for that kind of power. She played with fire, and like very quickly saw that she was not able to handle that.
She played with fire, and the little girl got burned, right?
Yeah.
And that's a risk. That's why my political comment about teen pregnancy was maybe too far. So I'm sorry for that. But but in reality, she's extremely busy. It's not. I don't think she's like intentionally neglecting the dragons. Maybe she's young and doesn't know exactly what to do with raising kids. But she's also got a whole city to run, killings to stop. Political games to play. Like, she's just busy. It's hard to manage all that. And the solution of locking them up, is it the right one? No. Is it as easy as sending them to daycare to let somebody else forge that behavior? Also not that easy, because they're dragons and nobody knows what to do. So I think she's in a pretty tough spot. I don't know what she'd do.
See, that's why I think that the dragon horn is going to be more of a signature device or a staple going forward. Like somehow in the back of my mind, I still think that a long time ago in Valyria, the Targaryens may have had something to do with maybe not this horn in specific, but maybe a horn that had, similar properties. And I think that's going to be another selling point, once Dany gets back to Meereen. When Victarion shows up, he has a way to be, or she's struggling with these dragons. Like, she really is. And what if he uses the horn as a device to, like, a selling point to, hey, you should marry me, and here, I'll give you a way to control these things. If it is real, if it really does what they're saying that or what we think this horn can do. She can get all three of them.
We got three things that we know from like history. Whips. This is the three things we know that they use to control dragons. Well, I mean two things. I'm sorry. Whips and magic, and then like you said, the horn. So you make a valid point, Don. Maybe Victarion uses the horn to control one of those dragons, man, and then that's. I don't know if it's going to be good.
No, I don't think he's going to use it to control the dragons. Like I said, it's going to be a wedding gift. It's going to be part of his proposal.
And I don't think he could either.
I mean, like
the horn that it's supposed to like burn you up.
But
you
see
have like a blood and stuff. I think maybe only someone from Valyria could be able to use the horn.
No, Makuro said you have to bind the blood or the horn to blood, which quote unquote Victarion has done. Okay, like because Makuro read the glyphs, and then there's a sample chapter for Victarion to where he gets 3 people from his ship to each person is going to blow the horn once, because back on the Iron Islands we had somebody blow the horn and it was like the most god awful thing, but it literally burned them from the inside. So. Some
people think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah. So, Victarion's mind, he's like, okay, I'm gonna get these 3 guys to blow the horn, and Makuro said it doesn't matter, who blows it. It matters with whose blood is tied to the horn. So, we could get somebody to blow the horn, but what if somehow you get Daenerys to tie the horn to her blood to have control over the dragons? I don't think Victarion is gonna control dragons. I think that's a little bit way too far fetched. So like I said, it's gonna be a gift to her for her unruly children.
But don't you think that he would like to be able to control the dragons?
Not necessarily. I don't think that's what he's focused on. I think he's more focused on her and getting her. Remember that this is a revenge plot for Victarion against his brother. That's what the whole thing is.
I think Victarion is a blunt force object, and I think he'd enjoy controlling dragons. I think he'd realize pretty quickly he has no fucking clue what to do with them, but for a while he'd have a lot of fun.
I don't know where I heard it, but I heard it might have been a podcast or a video. I can't remember, but somebody said that Tyrion's very clever. That he's possibly going to steal the horn from Victarion. I've heard that.
Who?
That
Tyrion from Victarion.
Yeah, that Tyrion is going to steal the horn from Victarion.
Dude, the horn's like 8 times bigger than Tyrion.
Yeah, but Tyrion's clever. You can't deny that.
What?
But how?
Yeah, just and just like walks off with it.
Lever and pulley system.
Yeah, no, he's just gonna put one in on the pig and one in on the dog and just ride out.
Well, he could have Jorah carry it.
They're gone. There's no more pig or dog.
I know. I'm just kidding.
I honestly don't want the horn to work because I think it'd be like, I don't know. I like the entire fantasy aspect of the dragons, etc. And the horn just looks like a cheap way to resolve the problem. I really want there to be other two riders to ride the 3 dragons, and I think that that's what she really needs. 2 other people that can help her control those dragons and ride them, because we already know that you need 1 rider per dragon. It's always been that way, like since history. 1 dragon, 1 rider. So she needs 2 people.
Well,
I think the horns. Go ahead. Sorry, Don.
No, you're good, man. Go ahead.
Well, I think the horns. I don't know that I disagree with you, Tinker. I think they do something. I don't necessarily want them to, as a fan of the story, but I think they do something. We know of 2 versions of horns: versions that supposedly control dragons, and Jorahmund's horn, the one that will supposedly bring down the wall. And we've had. I know. The suite over there has been talking about how it's not going to be dragons versus others at the end. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not sure whether that's what I want or not either. But I think they're related in some way. They're old world magic, and those horns, I think they're both going to do something, or it's the biggest bait and switch in fiction history, or at least George's fiction history.
What about the Kraken horn? Does that summon Krakens from the deep?
I don't know. I think so.
Cthulhu.
Yeah.
We haven't seen. I mean, we've just heard of that horn. We haven't seen it yet. Sorry, LT.
Oh no, it's okay. I was just gonna say something real quick. That all I know is there's a lot of hype in this video right now.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of hype in this video right now.
We're gonna watch it.
And that is our Victarion minute, because in every single video we have to talk about Victarion. So when are we doing a Victarion chapter so we can really talk about Victarion?
You gotta do the Reaver sometime, man. You gotta do the Reaver.
I mean, that would just make sense.
Man, I don't know. I don't know. Go ahead, Don. Sorry.
This week on the Hypes Watch, the Reaver. Victarion's a badass. Well, hey, I'm really glad that everybody decided to come by.
There's actually a lot of good stuff in that chapter, especially at the end with him and Euron.
I know.
No, definitely. I mean, I think we should finally stop beating around the bush and study that freaking Victarion chapter.
The Reaver?
Yeah, it's a good one. It's the best one, in my opinion.
We still need to do the North Remembers.
Oh yeah, no, that's the next one. The North Remember is the next one. I'm saying down the line.
Is it the next one?
It's the next one down.
I want to do a brand chapter. I really want to do a brand chapter, but that's just.
All I know is I'm gonna lose my shit when we do North Remembers, because that's one of my favorite chapters ever.
I think that's everybody's favorite chapter.
The North Remembers?
Yeah, I mean, and I still say it. It's like a borderline don't want to do it because it's like I like looking forward to doing it, and it's like I don't want it to be over and done with. I don't know. That's just me. I'll do it though. I'll be more than happy to do it. Like I said, I'm really excited about it, but it's just kind of like, oh man, we're done with it now. Oh,
It's like you want to be the hamster on the wheel.
Yeah, just. All right, so I stepped out for a minute. I'm sorry, everybody. Did we actually get to the last part where Drogon comes down and where Dany hauls ass and all that stuff? All right,
not yet. Before we move on, I wanted to talk a little bit about Dany's Dragon Pit policy that we have not touched on.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I think that's also interesting and reflecting on Dany. It's her internal monologue that sums up all of the Oh, I'm sorry. I'm starting to lose my words. It's only been 1 hour and 40 minutes, and I cannot speak English anymore. All the compromises that she's done, and like we were saying before, like Scott was saying before, their marriage is always going to be about a lot of compromising. So she said no to children, but okay to women fighting. She said okay to the follies because otherwise the cripples would and the dwarves would starve. But as long as they're willing, so that's what's weird is that she agreed that they could kill each other with with cleavers, torches, and hammers, but you cannot send lions against them. Like I feel like she agreed to a lot of things, but when she sees them in front of her, like she realized that it's more than she can stomach. And I'm sorry, I'm almost finished. And to me, it shows that she's not really ready for all of the compromises that ruling means. I hope if she ever rules Westeros that she will have a really good hand, because she's not freaking ready to rule right now. She's illegal. Sorry, I'm done. Go ahead, LT.
I was just going to say, I think we're all in agreement. If you want to speak French, we all think it's beautiful, so go ahead.
Really?
Yeah.
Bon, alors, donc, chers amis, qu'est-ce que vous pensez des capacités de Daenerys à vraiment diriger un pays? Est-ce qu'elle est capable d'implémenter une politique fiscale, une politique sociale, de planifier l'agriculture pour les années à venir?
Well, I thought I heard you say something about decapitating Daenerys, and then I thought I heard something about fiscal and social policy. How'd I do?
There was social and fiscal and no decapitating. There was agricultural planning, which is important in Westeros because we have the winter.
Well, I agree with you, Sweet, in the fact that I don't think that she's completely ready. But I don't think because of the examples that you gave, because of her monologue, because the lions were not really her decision. She agreed that cripples could, and dwarves should. But if they knew what they were getting themselves into, she disagreed to the lions because the dwarves had not agreed to fight the lion because they didn't have weapons to fight the lions. She wouldn't have enjoyed the dwarves fighting with actual weapons the lions, but if they had agreed, she wouldn't have liked it. She would have gone ahead and allowed it.
Sorry, I agree. But just like she doesn't see, like, of course, like those pits are reminiscent of Rome's fighting pits, and she does not understand. Like she obviously does not understand like their symbolic importance. She just thinks, oh, Hizdahr, and which is true. Hizdahr owns fighting pits and wants to make money out of them, But she doesn't grasp why those fighting pits are so important. Why are slaves? I mean, like all the upper rows are filled with slaves. Who are the poor bastards who end up in the fighting pits, before without being willing and being trained? She doesn't understand their importance in this culture, and she has she's not the best at sensing a different culture. She has good intention. Again, she has a great heart. She just made a complete mess in Slavers Bay, totally changing all of their social, cultural, political system, all their entire system. But for the greater good, yes, slavery is awful. She should stop slavery. But obviously, she hasn't stopped at one point to try to understand what symbolically was important for the Meereenese in that society. So at least she could try to replace it with things that would make sense for them. And I'm done.
So go ahead, James. Sorry.
I was I went into that in my Stannis versus Dany video where I believe that she should have allowed. Yes, slavery is bad. No one's going to say slavery is good, obviously, but you should allow a culture to evolve from within. Eventually revolution would happen and stuff like that, but when she, obviously the situation is not good. Between the Yunkish and the whole thing in Slavers Bay. Obviously, her approval ratings probably aren't very high for the most part.
Yeah, But what can you expect? So there's a lot to respond to here. I'm excited. Dany has one big problem. Ideologically, she disagrees with the entire thing that drives Meereen's economy. That's a big thing to get over. And if you're coming to a city and you are trying to change that huge thing, you can't do a slippery slope thing. And so, to me, the line that she's drawn for the line that she's drawn for the fighting pits is volunteering and knowing what you're kind of what Tinker was saying, knowing what you're getting yourself into. As soon as someone is being exploited in a way that they don't want or agree with, that they're not ready for, or being sacrificed or something, that's a line she can't let them cross, because that is slipping away from the ideological difference that she's trying to change. This isn't a gray issue you can have. You either have people being subject to other people's whims, or you don't. And so I don't think it's a gray line she can straddle and allow some of it and disallow some of it. What she's trying to do is appease the people by giving them the fighting pits and the violence and all the things, the traditions that they're willing to enjoy or wishing to enjoy, but still painting that line of nobody's getting taken advantage of. And I actually thought it was pretty consistent. However, back to what you were saying, Sweet, I do agree she's not ready. And people have complained top to bottom about this whole Meereenese knot, right? It's part of how Meereenese blot probably got their name. The Meereenese knot and how people hate it, and George is wasting his time, and blah, 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 blah. No! George is developing a character. This is a character-driven series, and Dany isn't ready to be a ruler. She has to learn, and for us to buy George's story, his narrative here, for this whole series, that, I mean, if you believe this, a lot of people don't, that Dany has a major part to play and will be a ruler or will be one of the options to rule that comes to a big conflict, you have to believe as a reader that she's ready for that. And we know for a fact she isn't. Jon is getting the same damn training, if you didn't notice. He has no idea what to do. And at the Wall, he's learning how to lead men, learning how to lead people, learning what it takes to take a different culture and bring it into your culture, being the wildlings into the Night's Watch. He's learning all those similar things that Dany's learning. You know, they're doing it in different political spectrums, but this is something that she has to come to grips with and learn how to do it and what her style is going to be and what she's willing to accept. I agree she's not ready, but actually I applaud the line she did draw here. Come on, guys.
I agree perfectly. I could have said it better because it's true. Stannis is more prepared to be a ruler, like I'm sure James agreed. But to be fair, he's also older. He's lived through a lot more. He's experienced a lot more. So eventually, at some point, both Jon and Dany have to experience very difficult situations to grow up and to eventually learn how to be able to rule. And it's not true that she doesn't have people that back her. All of the slaves in Volantis, you know, when Jorah and Tyrion are trying to get that ship for the woman, she's like, tell Daenerys that we're waiting for her. The slaves want. James said that a culture should revolt by themselves, should evolve by themselves, but maybe sometimes they need a spark to start a revolution. And maybe she's the spark that has started it.
No, I totally agree. But to harken back to what I was saying, I think that Meereen, politically speaking, is better off with Dany and Hizdahr. Like Hizdahr balancing Dany and forcing her to make rational political compromise than if she was on her own. That's why I think he's not such a bad guy, you know.
Yeah, I'm with you on that for sure. She has to give a little, or it'll never come together for her.
I hear what you guys are saying, but I'm sorry, but I think the show spoiled it for us. I think since Hizdahr died in the show, I think he will die in the books.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter to what I was saying. I'm saying it's part of her education that's necessarily for her to evolve. Maybe that's what Jon, you know, he didn't stay long enough with Hizdahr for it to really rub on her. But, you know, Jon didn't have a good counterpart. You know, he was pretty much the only master of the Watch, being the Lord Commander, and maybe would have needed a Maester Aemon by his side to like ease him into compromising and actually ruling.
First off, I would say to what else he said about Hizdahr being dead. I would point out the fact that George has said that people who are dead in the show will survive the books.
Yeah.
Second off, I don't trust Dingus and Dickweed to get anything right.
Yes. Yes.
And point three is, I'm not a Dany fan, but I don't want her to fail. So if things work out for her, I mean, I hope things work out for her in the end. I honestly do. I want her to succeed in whatever she's trying to do. She just needs to make a decision on what she is going to do. Is she going to stay in Meereen, or is she going to go to Westeros? That's the decision I want her to make.
I honestly think she needs Tyrion. I think the fact that she actually saved him from the pits, I actually really liked it when they read. It's like, without knowing if she's saved, because I think she's going to need Tyrion. I think Tyrion can be the person that can really help her fix things in Meereen. Tyrion is always very intelligent. He understands people, understands what people's needs, how a city works, how they function. And I think he can actually do that, understanding what Dany wants to do and what her morality is, and at the same time make it work for a city. I think she needs Tyrion more than Hizdahr, because Hizdahr just wants things to go back to slavery, to all the things that I think Tyrion would work much better.
Oh yeah, I agree.
All right, so I think that Tyrion does have the necessary skills, but this is not Westeros. Like, things are completely different here, and she's trying to do the right thing and let the people feel like they're wanted, that that's why she's making compromises, but I think Tyrion has the necessary skills to bring to the table to adapt this new scenario. There's going to be a learning curve, but Tyrion could be the one to actually pull it off. I don't think he's going to be right out of the box, like, just fix everything for Daenerys.
No,
but he has the capacity to learn and do so accordingly.
I think it's too much of a mess for anyone to just fix it instantly.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I don't know. Sorry, no, go ahead.
Just on Tyrion real quick, a couple cents. I think it would be interesting to see Tyrion have to adapt to someone else's ideology, because he's been running his own as Hand of the King, and I'm not sure he agrees with all the stuff Dany does. I haven't given it a ton of thought, to be honest. I wish I had now. This would be more profound, but it would be interesting to have him ruling with somebody else who really is calling the shots, because in King's Landing, when he was on top of shit, he was the one making the choices, and it was kind of his rules they were following.
Yeah, to jump on that, yes, he has the skill. Right now, does he really have the will to, want to make Dany a good ruler, or will he want to use Dany and play her as he's done before to get his own revenge agenda? Because he's all about fire and blood right now.
Yeah, good point.
Well, he makes out his point when he says that, what good am I forgot who it was. I'm oblivious to it, but he says my good points is that I can tell you the strategies of my sister and my brother. He told somebody that in Death of Dragons, I can't remember. But he's saying that's his main point that he could tell Daenerys about, is what Cersei would do and what Jaime would do.
What I'd say about Tyrion is, if you're willing to turn someone into soup, you're willing to do anything. He turned someone into soup.
Oh, yeah.
So I won't put anything past Tyrion. Now, show Tyrion, he'd probably, he's all about lilacs and roses, so.
And looking good and winning Emmys. I'm a big Dinklage fan, but that guy's far too attractive for Tyrion Lannister.
And far too nice as well.
You gotta admit, he is way too attractive for Tyrion Lannister, but you gotta admit he was born to play that role. I mean, could you think of any other dwarves that would play his role? No.
Warwick Davis, I could have seen him do it.
Warwick Davis, hell no, dude.
He's also too pretty. But
You're talking about Wicked from Return of the Jedi. I know you're talking about. No, he can't play Tyrion.
I wish they at least kept the mismatched eyes. I always found that so funny. It's so curious.
HBO has their own agenda, and I'll leave it at that.
You guys know that the first person in the show that was cast was Peter Dinklage. That freaking Dan and Dave and George R. R. Martin, they all agreed that that's the person who's going to play Tyrion. And before anybody else was cast, that he was cast.
Deciding to get politically correct or not. I'll leave it alone.
Well, we're not very politically correct usually,
No.
so you can go
Yeah,
ahead.
we prefer politically correct. Go ahead.
How many little people actors do they know?
Not too many, that's what I'm saying. But
It's probably like, oh, I need a little person. That guy, I know him.
hey, maybe the guy from Jackass could play Tyrion. What's his name? Oh, Wee Man?
Wee Man.
Yeah,
Look,
I think
I'm not-
Dinklage was a better choice than we.
He's a fantastic actor. I'm a big fan. He's just far too attractive.
No, and I think we all are in agreement on it. I don't think nobody gets to do that he's not attractive to play Tyrion. Because
I would say really his looks aren't an issue for me. It's more so the portrayal,
Oh yeah. Well, that.
how he's written.
Oh yeah.
and what
Yeah,
about I'm sorry, go ahead, Tinker.
No, I was agreeing with James about how he's reading, but also his looks. They even changed that in the writing in the show, because I remember in the book she's like absolutely horrified, thinking he's so ugly, just so disgusted. And in the show, when she's talking to Marjorie about Tyrion, and she's like, "Oh, you're afraid of being intimate with him." Like, oh, he's kind of handsome even without the scar. Well, especially with the scar. So he suddenly becomes like this little handsome dwarf thing, and you're like, what? In the book, she can barely even look at him, and it's like something that she cannot get over. And now he's like this sexy dwarf.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. That even changes Sansa because in the book, she's mostly she's revolted by his physical appearance. In the show, they made it all oh no, the Lannisters, they hurt my family too much. I could never be with a Lannister. Like they made it very political when it's basically a girl saying he's too ugly for me to have sex with him.
Hey, this might be super nerdy, but he's a dwarf who rolled high charisma.
How many
He's
guys?
what? I didn't hear.
Yeah, repeat that, James. Repeat that.
I said he's a dwarf who rolled high charisma. It's a super nerdy joke.
He not only rolled high charisma, but he's got a high charisma modifier to help his normal rolls every time.
He's wearing some plus charisma loot.
Yeah, that's right.
You guys remember that in the first season, Peter Dinklage's hair was Lannister gold, and then like the third season, it became brown, and they didn't even fucking say nothing about it.
And in the first episode, they were dyed really, really blonde. Like, the more of the real color that he's supposed to have, like lighter than the other Lannisters.
And then, by like the third season, his hair just changed back to brown, and nobody said nothing about it.
Now that's the slippery slope I'm talking about. If Dany would have allowed that slippery slope in the pits, it would have been just like the Lannister gold to brown hair. You just can't start down the slippery slope.
And that's
Sorry, LT, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's something that's puzzled me. Like the whole arc with Jaime and Cersei is like Jaime's whole character from like the Storm of Swords. Every fucking chapter, he mentions her golden curls, and you never hear about that. I mean, of course, you never hear about that, but that's all he mentions is her golden curls. I can't wait to see her golden curls again. And he never mentions that.
One thing that's my favorite part of this whole chapter is that Dany does not bring up Dario once in her thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh yes, thank God.
And my favorite part of this whole chapter.
No, she doesn't.
She did bring him up at the beginning, didn't she?
Because she thinks
okay,
her
once.
grandfather and
Because
the way Dario.
because Dario's always talking about Sir Barristan that way. Yeah.
It's something that I don't really like, that she kind of takes on the name. I'm like, really? I love Sir Barristan. I think it's so disrespectful.
Oh, I love the line because we're talking about. I was gonna quote it before we moved on, where I just lost it. Oh, that is no way to fight a boar, said Sir Barristan.
Yeah.
It sounded like someone's fussy old grandsire, just as Dario was always saying. Bam, Dario reference.
Talking about Sir Barristan, and I didn't bring it up before. I kind of forgot about it. You reminded me, but like she was rolling into the pits and like her seat, and it just the way that George described it, it like all happened in slow mo. Like on one side, she had strong Belwas, and then on the other side, she had Sir Barristan the Bold, who had his shield, and his bone white bleached cape. And it was just like something out of 300, like slow motion for me in my imagination, in my head, and I was going over this chapter reread, I was just sitting here with my book, I was like, man, that's fucking cool as shit, I was like, that's awesome.
And Sir Barristan was the only person who fucking protested when Ned went out and decided to go off topic like that. When Ned brought the letter, Sir Barristan was like, that's the king's words. Nobody else fucking said shit.
Because he's a man of honor.
All right. Anything else before we talk about Drogon actually showing up?
Yeah, please, let's talk about Drogon.
All right. I will read this last piece here, and then we will break it down. And let's see here. It is then Drogon appears, his attention drawn by the blood and screams. His fires sear the boar before he eats it, and then Barcina. A man runs to try to kill the dragon, the hero, jabbing a spear into Drogon's neck before the dragon kills him. Hizdahr commands the rest of his spearmen to kill the dragon, which, sidebar note, I thought that was kind of fucked up that Hizdahr was like, kill the dragon right in front of Dany.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Drogon roasts 2 spearmen, breaks the pitmaster in 2 with a swipe of his tail, and tears out the innards of another spearman. As strong Belwas is puking, Dany runs into the fighting pit in a mad state, hearing footsteps behind her. When she gets close, she fears the dragon does not recognize her and will kill her. As he blows fire at her, she rolls under the flames and whips him until finally he allows her to mount him. She leaps onto his back, pulling out the spear. As she whips him again, he takes flight, and she tells him to go higher, watching as Meereen grows smaller below. We were just talking about Sir Barristan the fucking Bold, okay? Like, she's over here trying to whip this dragon in his face, commenting that his breath is so hot that it is blistering. Or, like, it would be blistering, let's say, to a normal man. But we're talking about the mother of dragons here. But she can also see that Sir Barristan is running after her and is talking to Drogon, is like, me. He says, try me. Like, get at me, bro. Like, Sir Barristan the Bold, just without any hesitation, runs in there. There's another thing that I thought was really cool about Drogon. All of his scales were black, even his teeth were black, but his eyes and his horns were molten red. And she could even see herself in his reflection about how small and pathetic she is. Well, not necessarily pathetic, but she doesn't look like much. Yeah. And she even comments, I cannot let him see my fear. So even there's one unique thing about these dragons that I wish the show would have done. Their fire is associated with their color. Like he would breathe black fire with streaks of red in it. And the other 2 as well with their colors. So I just thought that would have been like a special twist, especially on the show-wise, to be like, these dragons are a little bit different than dragons we've seen before in different bodies of work. It could have been a little bit, to separate them, that there's something special in this series.
But they didn't even get the colors right. Victarion and Reread, one's supposed to be green and they're supposed to be like white, gold, and they don't look those colors? They're not really?
Kind of. I mean, like I don't think they're as vibrant in the show as they are the books, but I think they did lean the colors towards them.
Yeah, kind of lean towards, kind of, sort of, but not completely.
Like,
Not completely. And if they didn't get the only one that they got more right was Drogon, and the other two were like an afterthought. Victarion and Rhaegal, once they put them inside of and she closed them off, you could barely even see the color. No, come on. If they cannot get the colors of the actual dragons properly right, they're gonna get the color of the actual fire correctly in our dreams.
And
We're not that lucky.
What about his black blood? His blood wasn't even red; it was black. You know, and then even when it drifted on the already scorching sand, you know, it would more or less steam from burning. And then when she pulls the spear out, it's half
it's
molted.
molted. I love that. I love that she like says that she can feel the heat coming out of the dragon. But come on, we already talked about this. We already talked about this song in the last episode. He's pussy Drogon.
Yeah.
He's not book Drogon.
When I reread this, I definitely thought that, you know, Drogon got way ahead in the books, because like in the show, they fucking threw like 5 or 6 or maybe even 7 spears inside of him, and I thought he was in trouble, man. Even though I knew he was gonna fly away, they threw like I'm telling you guys, they threw like 5 or 6 or 7 spears into him, and like in the book they only throw 1. So like I really thought Drogon was in trouble in the show, even though I knew he was gonna fly away.
Well, and then they, just like Tinker said, it's Pussy Show Drogon, and then more or less Pussy Daenerys. She like crawls on top of him, but clearly in this reread, she like vaults on top of him, and she's like, "Sup, dude?" You know, and then like pulls the thing. Like there was no hesitation.
There was also no whipping in the show.
True.
It is, yeah. Can we talk about the show after we talk about the chapter? Because yes, I mean, especially that it has nothing to do. I mean, like symbolically, narratively speaking, like that's another thing that really pissed me off. Like it has nothing to do with what's happening here. Yeah, like again, like
never ending story.
Yeah, I mean no, but they keep, you know, they keep the same words, but they just take away the meaning. Like that's ridiculous. So what I really like was the opening, like the arrival of Drogon, a shadow, like the first mention of Drogon is his shadow, a shadow rippled across his face, Hizdahr's face, and like even though he's not that big, he's casting like even a tiny dragon can cast a really big shadow.
The closer it gets to the sun, am I right?
Yeah, I can really imagine, like I can really picture Drogon's shadow like going over the entire pit.
The thing that struck me on this reread that I didn't notice before, or it just didn't register, or I read through it, I don't know, is and they mentioned it once or twice, is that his wings, when they flap, make a sound like thunderclap. How does I don't know, physics? How does that work? What is it clapping against? Would have to move at the speed of sound to do that, or
I don't know. Maybe I think it's a way that she said, like the strength that the wings and then the dragon itself had. That they was just so strong and with such strength that to her it sounded like thunder. That's how I understood it, anyways.
I remember.
I'm gonna have to hope somebody in the comments can be a physicist and tell me.
We have Nicolina, if she's still there. Nico, are you still there? Are you still watching us? She's the greatest physicist ever. She was in one of our previous reread, and if you're still there, we could really use your knowledge.
Well, I have to relate it to something I've seen before. Remember in the Dark Knight where he shot the windows with the little bombs, and then like he took off on his wings, and to like glide into Batman did. And while he was flying, the pieces of his suit, wing cape, it was like flapping in the wind, and you could hear it like kind of like popping against the wind, like the fabric was. And so I think about, let's say, like his wings, it's more or less big hands with big webbings in between it, like a bat, that in my head, and so his skin, the webbing, he would flap so hard that the webbing would just kind of hit the air so hard and so furiously it would make a popping noise. It's kind of like the end of a whip, why it makes that noise, because it hits so hard so fast. That's why I think that the big thunderclap, would actually happen.
All right, I'll buy it.
I mean, like that's the only logical thing I can come up with. It is literally the force of that thin sheet of skin hitting against the air, possibly, breaking the sound barrier, and making that noise.
Yeah.
Just like you guys said that, like how she was in like her box and she could feel the heat of his fire.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say if Guile can do a backwards
sonic boom,
why can't a dragon make a loud noise with his wings? I don't know.
No, Moni G here, I did a really extravagant trying to relate it, but she said like a flag, like the flag at the top of a pole. Like it makes that popping sound.
Yeah, and the dragon's wings are much bigger than that, so maybe you extend the sound to be much greater.
In this chapter, his wingspan was 20 feet.
Yeah.
How much is that in meters?
6.
Yeah, roughly.
I got you. Hang on.
It's like 3.2 feet per meter, something like that.
6.09 meters.
Damn! That was close. But I would say a wingspan of 20 feet, also taking into account his body being 1 or 2 feet across.
Right.
I think sorry. Do I speak?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick, real funny, that I think we're all in agreement that there's some hype in this chapter.
Okay, ready? Do you think there's any... So, yeah, the dragons, their blood is a color, they have a color, their fire is a color. Do you think there's any connection with their names?
Connection to what?
Oh, I mean...
Well,
with their appearance.
Visceral is gold, right?
He's cream with like gold laces.
Yeah.
I thought.
And Viserys got a crown of gold on his head.
Mm-hmm. And Drogon, is black and.
Why is Rhaegal green?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. If you guys had any idea what could be green, except the green fork
and
where he died.
Renly's green armor.
That has nothing to do with
Rhaegar.
I know, that's the only green I know.
Well, I do think Rhaegar did at the Green Fort. That does make kind of sense. I don't know.
What's dead may never die.
Thanks.
I also always thought, like, they mentioned Rhaegal being after Rhaegar, but it also could be after Rhaego. And it's interesting that's not brought up more to me.
Could be.
I mean,
not that lends anything to the color question.
And Drogon is after,
Drogo.
Khal Drogo.
So the black makes sense with his black braid. But yeah, no, I still think there's a. I don't know. I know she's never gonna meet Rhaegar, who's dead unless he's menstruator, but then he's dead again. But like, is her 3 dragons to me need to? I mean, I know I'm getting off topic again, but needs to be related to 3 people who've had an important influence in her life. So one way or another, like, there needs to be more of a connection between Dany and Rhaegar. Unless, oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's actually why I think of Rhaego, because I think there's a huge connection between a woman and the child in her womb.
Well, I think my theory is that Jon will eventually ride one of the dragons. So if she's named one of the dragons Rhaegal, and it was named after her brother, then he could ride the dragon that is named after his father. If not, if it's not if Aegon then is the real Aegon and Jon doesn't actually ride the dragon, maybe Aegon will ride the dragon that is also named after his brother. So naming him after Rhaegar may have two different connections.
Jon's father is Ned, right?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
What?
Ned and Wyla are his parents.
Yeah, what is...
Or what was it, the fisherman's wife? It's like
Yeah.
the
Well, yeah, I don't know. I still want to know more about Ashara Dane and why she was put into that big mess. But that is even less the topic of our chapter.
I think we all want to know more about Ashara Dane.
One line I really liked from that part is Hizdahr's reaction. I love that description. A queer look passed across Hizdahr Zo Loraq's long, pale face, part fear, part lust, part rapture. He licked his lips. That was so visual to me. That was so striking. Like the effect on the dragons.
Yeah,
Right.
and it makes his reaction makes me agree with Tinker more.
And he tries to get Drogon killed right there in front of her, while she is still queen.
Yeah, but you can't. I mean, he's trying to protect his people, right?
Yeah.
I would say it's based on instinct, you know.
Yeah.
You saw what a
No, I don't think so.
Well, so
I think
how would you see a 4,000-pound lizard in the middle of this ring and he's roasting people alive? I mean, I'm just saying, what would be your instinct?
He's a coward. His first instinct would be to run. We've already seen that with Sir Barristan. I think that he was very calculated and he thought, ooh, look at that. Perfect opportunity to have the dragon killed, and I would have very good reasons to have the dragon killed, taking account what is happening.
Well, I would say, as a known coward, cowardice and intelligence are often confused.
I got a quick question. How many people are watching us right now?
20.
20.
Nice. Hello, everybody. I'm Sir L.T. Giles, and I'm happy you're here.
I guess my point though is just like, I don't know what else. I mean, how easy would it be to corral Drogon? Is my question.
Impossible.
So I mean, I don't know if, like I'm saying, I don't know if Hizdahr was completely in the wrong. Maybe he should have used better words, but I just don't know if he was completely in the wrong there.
How about going to Dany and asking her to do something about Drogon?
Oh yeah. My wife, please, my wife, go and tame that freaking monster.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah.
like no. Again, I know I'm defending Hizdahr, but that was not, to me, that would not make a lot of sense.
Without Hizdahr saying that, this is what I imagine. I imagine the part from Spaceballs when they all look at each other and they go, "Do something! Do something! Do something!"
Yes.
I'm sorry.
He said they've jammed the radar, sir. And like you see like a bottle of jam just splash against the saddle.
I think we might have taken combing the desert too literal.
Yeah. He was like, man, we ain't found shit. That's a great movie. Great movie.
No, but again, to go back to...
Off track every time. Go ahead, sweet.
Oh, sorry. I don't want to interrupt any Spaceball reference movie that I have not seen because I know nothing.
You've never seen Spaceballs, Ian?
Yeah, I know nothing.
It just broke my heart. They just like, oh my god, like all of your like old school, fantasy stuff and Star Wars, they just completely demolished the whole damn thing. Like it's hilarious. It's a Mel Brooks movie. You know,
Yeah, well, I know. It's a Mel Brooks movie, but I wasn't sure I was gonna get all the Star Wars reference from the movie, so.
Okay.
That's cool. That's cool.
But to go back
first
to
you need
Lust.
to watch the Star Wars movies, and then you need to watch Spaceballs,
Well,
and then
I've
you need
watched-
to report back.
I've watched the Star Wars movie. I will not go and watch the next ones. I will probably eventually see them someday, and that's just gonna start a huge riot in that reread chapter reread. I have. Okay, I'm saying it. Don't subscribe to my channel because I have no interest in seeing those Star Wars movies. I am very excited about those Star Wars movies.
Oh.
Brienne of Tarth is going to be in the new movies.
Yes, Captain Phasma.
Yes.
No idea what that is. But yeah, I mean, I know Brienne of Tarth. I like the actress, but yeah.
She's gonna be in a badass outfit with the cave, and I can't wait.
Is that her?
What I want is a badass screenwriter.
No, she doesn't have a lightsaber. She kind of looked like Boba Fett almost. She had like Boba Fett armor on, kind of.
She's like the captain of the stormtroopers or lieutenant or something.
Sweet.
Back to the matter at hand.
Yes.
Yes, Drogon.
Yeah,
Drogon.
I mean, that's. I still love that quote. That is not just fear, like fear, lust, rapture. That's very, that's very, very, very powerful. It reflects not only on Hizdahr but also on the power of the dragons right now.
Well, a lot of people give Daenerys shit. Like, everybody is completely... Like, when Drogon shows up, everybody is like, holy shit. Like, it's an epic scene. And Daenerys even comments, like, I am literally looking into hell right now.
Mm.
Oh, yes,
and he's got blood dripping from his teeth. He has bones like stuck in between his teeth. It reminded me of like Dragonheart with Dennis Quaid like a long time ago, where he had to pull the person's arm out of his teeth. And it just all of these things, and she did not back down. She did not back down. Like, there's so many people that is like, I know Jerry hates, Daenerys, but it's
hey, Jerry.
Like, yeah, hey, Jerry.
Oh, his birthday's in June.
Yeah, Jerry is he's our watcher in the chats right now. But she does not back down to this guy, and she knows that like he's so rogue, he's so renegade, he's so wild right now that if I back down, like he'll eat me, and like he even snapped at her like and stopped right in front of her face. So I have to give Daenerys credit. I have to give her credit to breaking out of Sir Barristan Bowles' arms, because he's like holding her. He's like, don't even look. Like, they're trying to kill your dragon. She's like, get off me, ho. And like fucking runs out there, and takes charge. There's a couple times in this. There's 3 times that right off the top of my head she takes charge in this chapter. It was the guy that passed out in the streets. It was saying no. These dwarfs do not sick lions on them because that's not part of their agreement. That's the second time. And then the third time is Drogon shows up, starts killing everybody. She runs out there, in the midst of him flapping his wings with the sand everywhere, and like she's got it in her eyes. She starts whipping this guy in the face, and
no,
I'm
but
sorry, but Daenerys is a badass in this chapter. Like, she takes control.
She's a really good. She's really good in time of war. I mean, she was, like deceiving, but she's good with war. She's just not good with ruling in time of peace. She's great at crisis management. Like,
I don't know that she ever had a chance to rule in a time of peace. Not really. The last 90 days or whatever, maybe. But with Dany on the Drogon front. I would quote Chris Rock. What do you want? A cookie?
Yeah.
You're supposed to run out there and take care of the dragon problem that you created. It's your responsibility. You better go out and do that. Not that it isn't brave, it is, but it'd be worse if she didn't. It'd be something to really judge against her if she didn't do that. In my opinion.
Yeah, but she didn't. That did not even cross her mind. It's like once it actually like settled in what was going on. Like, I think she was even stuck in a shock and awe moment. It's like, my child just returned, and then the fact that he returned, what is actually going down right now? Because remember, she's just getting over a panic attack. Like, when she's like, Sir Barristan, escort me back to my gardens, okay? And then all of a sudden, like Anne said earlier, all of a sudden the shadow crosses across Hizdahr's face, and it happens so freaking fast, of Drogon coming down, eating the boar, eating Miss Blackhair, and then Hizdahr's like, kill her, like, and Barristan grabs her. It all happens like in a very short amount of time, and she immediately, immediately pushes off him and just loses him. You know, like she's a little girl. Sir Barristan can't even keep up because he's so old. He's in armor and everything. You know, he blames himself later. You know, if he was younger, he could have caught her. You know, and she did not think. She didn't like, well, what should I do? Like, that did not cross her mind whatsoever. Like, she jumped on it big time.
Some people are best in times of stress and reacting
like,
immediately.
Back when I was in school, like you know, years and years ago, like I was talking to my mom, and she was like, you know, you have the same problem I do. You're a procrastinator, but you work extremely well under pressure. You know, like, which I kind of thought about this. You know, it's like she is under pressure. It's an immediate reaction. You know, and that's when she really shows her greatness of what she can do.
Yeah.
That's very true. There's a really deep bonding moment, like to go back to what we were saying with the possibility of some kind of psychic connection between her and Drogon when he gets hit by the hero spear.
They screamed at the same time.
Yeah, Dany and Drogon screamed as one. It's not even at the same time, it's screamed as one. That's exactly how it's written, and that's,
And that's why I felt like I don't think it was the blood and gore and screams that attracted Drogon. I think that very quickly he was picking up on her feelings. And just me in my heart of hearts, I want to think that he felt what she was feeling, and he came to her rescue, more or less. You know, it's like his intentions were well, but he kind of fucked everything up when he got there.
Well, I think that the blood and the fire and everything distracted him once he got there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's kind of like if you have a dog, you know, and you're in a room with them, but then all of a sudden there's a steak in the middle of the room. Is he gonna listen to you? I don't know.
Nah, yeah,
it's not really
kind of up in the air. You know, it's like, I can yell at my dog to like come in from the yard. You know, and he does, but I just so happen to have a plate of fried chicken in front of me. He's no longer listening to me. You know, like he wants the fried chicken, and I'm literally gonna have to like snap this dude in his face, or both of my dogs, you know, to like get him like, you know, look, you know, like I need you to focus and pay attention. You know, like,
now, especially imagine if your dog doesn't have any training whatsoever. Then he's not gonna even listen to you for a second.
Right.
I buy all of that. I buy all of that until we get to the moment where he lashes out directly at her face and comes inches away from biting her. Because at that point, it is just him and her, and he should be able to focus on what she's doing. And it's clear she doesn't have a great hold on him. And at that point, I go back and forth in this chapter because it's like they scream as one. He shows up seemingly, you know, somewhat randomly, very quickly, and they scream as one when she goes down there. But on the other hand, he almost bites her head off, and I don't know whether it's a miscalculation or he's just warning her or what, but it could be read certainly that she's lost control of him, and that would imply very much that that connection isn't really there. It's a tough read.
One doesn't technically take away from the other. Just because there's a connection doesn't mean that there's any kind of control. It means that there's a link there, emotional link between them. That doesn't mean that she has any control over him. He cares about her, but he's still a monstrous beast. At the moment he gets there, he starts feasting, and then he starts getting attacked. And he's a dragon, you know, he's fire, he's only rage. And there's a moment she says, does he recognize me? And then he kind of stops. Just because there's an emotional link there, he wants to, and he cares about her in some way, doesn't mean that she has any control over him at all.
Well, that's a good point.
I go back to my lizard, my reptile interpretation of what this dragon is supposed to be, you know, with the eggs and stuff. I know they're magical with fire, you know, or these dragons are, you know, but I used to have a bearded dragon, and I remember, like, I used to let her name was Penny, like, she would, like, hang on my shirt, like, I'd put a beanie on, she'd sit on top of my head, you know, but, like, and I would pet her and everything, but she bit me a couple times. You know, like, I guess I was petting her too much. I was moving her around too much. You know, but it was more of she would kind of tolerate what I would do. It's not necessarily what, you know, she wanted, but she would just tolerate it. You know, but there was a couple times to where she bit me. You know, and I think that goes back to just kind of physical nature of a reptile and a lizard. You know, I mean, maybe these dragons are totally different, but I have to apply that with thinking about dragons. They're just big, flying, fire-breathing lizards.
I sort of thought that he didn't recognize her because of the sand at that point. I mean, I don't know if we're talking about the same part. Is that when he says he beat his wing again, sending up a choking storm of scarlet sand. Then he stumbled into the hot red cloud, coughing. He snapped. Like, I always thought that there was so much sand that he didn't see her at that point, and then he recognized her.
That's very possible.
I'm sorry.
I read that too. I think it's a tough read. So I read that too, and I could see that maybe he didn't see it. But later, about a half paragraph later, she's talking about looking into his mouth and everything. His eyes are molten. She sees she sees bits of broken bone, charred flesh between his black teeth. She says, "I dare not look away. She'd never been so certain of anything. If I run from him, he will burn me and devour me." He certainly knows it's her by then. And if she's certain of that, I don't know.
And I mean,
that's no kind of emotional connection I'm used to.
And he definitely sweeps her with flame, and she has to, you know, Lara Croft Tomb Raider roll out of the way.
Yeah, like...
would have been quite anticlimactic if she would have died there. That would have been not very good.
I don't think she would have died because, I mean, like, he could have chomped her to death. He could have bit her, like, in half, you know, but even if, I think that even if he would have hit her with the fire, it would have hurt her. It would have burned her hair off. You know, she would be naked at the end of it, but I think she could have still been standing.
I don't think she's fireproof.
I don't think she's fireproof either. You know, like, she's definitely susceptible to it, but just not like everybody else. You know, with the hot breath that went on her, she, like I said earlier, it would be blistering to a normal man, but she was able to take it. But even if he hit her with the fire, I mean, maybe if he sat there for a couple minutes and she just, you know, just bathed in his fire, yeah, it would really hurt her or kill her. But even if he would have, like, blown it on her, I think that she would still be there and not that hurt. Like I said, her clothes would be gone, her hair may be gone, you know, but I don't think it would have taken her out.
Now, I'll just throw out my analysis real quick. Obviously, she cranks the level to, you know, she cranks the badass level to 11.
Right.
Smacks him with the whip, gets up on his back. You know, she was quite gangster in that.
Dude, he completely flattened out. Like, he flattened his entire body out, belly down on the ground to let her get on him.
Now, my favorite part is, you know, she's like, when he's flying away, she's like, just go and do it. I'm tired of this crap here in Meereen. You know, she was like YOLO, is what I was thinking she was saying at that point. And I remember when I read that for the first time, I was like, you know, I wish. First off, I think LT is sleeping possibly, but that being said, I think that.
Was it 2 hours? Okay, so I was an hour off. I was an hour off.
But yeah, when she was flying off, you know, I was thinking, you know, you go, girl, get away from Meereen. Let's go to Westeros, fire and blood. Let's do it. And I actually enjoyed Daenerys at that particular moment, and everyone knows I'm not a Dany fan. And LT, what do you got? What do you got, LT?
Oh my God. Okay.
Maybe he's just pretending to sleep and he's secretly uploading videos on his channel the way Don Willie did the last time.
Yeah. Oh my God.
No, I think this is a first.
Oh my God. LT got Quentyn. LT got Quentyn.
That might be that's a first on live broadcast.
Oh my God! Oh my God! I'm sweating. Oh my God. Okay.
Okay, so can we talk?
Just for the record, hang on. For the record, LT works in Las Vegas, and he does work on the Strip, and he works overnight. And we always schedule around 2 o'clock so LT can actually get off of work. Well, 2 o'clock Eastern time. So it's even earlier for him. So he gets off of work, rushes home after working 10 hours, and then comes on the the channel with us. So I really don't blame this guy. It's kind of really late at night for him because he works overnight. So
It's a classic. It's a classic moment of
YouTube
broadcasting history.
Yeah. Scat, thanks for being here, buddy.
Yeah, that's all. That's pretty much all I had to say on that.
Yeah. I think we've pretty much nailed everything. Do you guys have any kind of final thoughts? Anything else that
Just
was
the end of the chapter. Sorry, go ahead, Scott.
I've got one.
Mhm.
If you were reading these lines out of context, yes, now do it, take me.
Yes.
You'd think
And
you were
she could
reading
feel
porno.
like I told Tinker earlier. She was like, "Oh yeah, Dany could feel the heat," and I said, "In between her thighs."
Thighs,
That is
yes.
specifically said there.
If
So
I
I'm
heard
on
that
the same page with you.
If I heard that out of context, I'm assuming that she was asking someone to take her to coffee.
Yeah.
That's
You
that's exactly what I want to talk
gallant
about.
Wow.
individual, and I will let you date my niece, James, someday.
Okay.
So we all agree that Drogon there is the mount. That she's mounting Drogon literally and metaphorically speaking.
I don't know that I
Dragon.
don't. I don't know that she's actually getting off, but it reads that way.
Yeah. She's
Yeah,
definitely.
I'd say she is.
She's at least getting some release, either emotional or physical. She's getting some release.
Her heart
Well,
felt that we're about to burst.
Let's. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but yeah, she's been under an immense amount of stress. She hasn't seen this dragon, who is essentially her child, like Tinker said earlier, for 5.5 months. She's been under a crazy amount of stress. No good sex recently. She's married to a guy she can't really stand. She needs a release, and whether this is a metaphorical one or an actual sexual one, you be the judge. But yeah, she's getting a release here for sure.
When she married Hizdahr, like I'm a little fuzzy on the timeline. She has had sex with Dario for pretty much a month, right?
It was like in between this chapter and the previous chapter is when she married Hizdahr.
Mhm.
It was kind of off screen in between these two chapters.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know how long it's been. Like the last time she had sex with Dario was the morning before her wedding. So has anyone watched the timeline to have a better idea of how long it's been?
No, I don't. I didn't even think about
I didn't
that.
check. I didn't check the timeline. But for some of us, a week is too long.
Man, LT passes out and all the people leave. We had like 11 there for a minute.
Of course.
Sir ladies, man. So
Yeah.
they're calling your name, buddy.
So great.
All right, so anybody else? Any more kind of final thoughts about the chapter, and then maybe we could take a couple questions if anybody has any questions in the comments, or if anybody wants to bring any sidebar conversation after that. Tinker, did I just see you raise your hand?
No.
No?
I would just say, it's a badass chapter, and then once
It
again,
is.
I would, yeah, and there's also some subtlety in it, and especially the honeyed locust, plot. I do think that you should read. Like once again, I'm gonna pimp the Meereenese blot once again. I think you guys should read that, and yeah, that's about all I gotta say about this chapter.
There is one thing that I do want to say. When I was rereading this chapter, well, I was reading this book this couple of weeks, and when I got to this chapter, I realized rereading this chapter that I suddenly liked much less the scene that they did in the show of this chapter. I enjoyed really seeing her fly away with that scene in the show, but the moment that I reread the chapter, it'd been a long time since I read this chapter. I was like, it's suddenly not as good as I remember it being.
Yeah, I mean, well, I would say though, just how many moments in the show are actually better than the book? Not many.
The Viper and the
I
Mountain?
don't know. The Watchers on the Wall might have been better.
Yeah, I mean, that was
in the
pretty
show.
decent.
the Watchers on the Wall, where they had the chain, like they substituted the Blackwater chain for the wall chain in the anchor and the hook, and like the constant horn blowing, like over and over again. Like I like show Watchers on the Wall, like Mance Raider's attack, except they didn't have the turtle at the bottom, like trying to beat down the wall. I think there was a couple more giants than just two.
No, that was pretty good, but all in all, I mean, usually it falls a little short.
I know, but it was not as good. But I thought, oh, I still enjoyed it. And then when I read the chapter, it was suddenly feeling disappointed. I'm like, okay, no, there's much.
I do think the one thing that hurt it a little bit was Hardhome. I think too much of the budget went to Hardhome as opposed to that scene, because the CGI was quite.
Here's the thing I'll say.
Yeah.
Here's the thing I'll say about the show, and I confessed before that I stopped watching. I stopped watching the show after season 3, so I'm behind on it, and so my opinions for the last couple seasons wouldn't matter. But my statement here is more about film and TV work behind a camera in general, trying to capture imagination, and there is a reason that people spend billions, if not trillions, of dollars every year trying to capture better visual experiences. It's because the human mind and the imagination is incredible. And we have so much power to translate the written word, Gurms in this case, to thoughts in our brain that there are billions and billions of dollars to be made in trying to translate that type of imagery into something you can see. And it's always going to fall short. Even in the good examples, it always falls short of your imagination. It's just the way it's going to be.
Plus, your imagination doesn't have budget restraints.
Yeah, right.
And stuff like that, limitations.
Do we have any questions? Aileen asked, do you have thoughts about Dany shedding her floppy hairs? I'm sorry, that's the first question I see. I'm sorry, there were some before that I missed. So does anyone have any thoughts about Dany shedding her floppy hairs?
I think it was like, it was her saying like, screw it, I'm done with Meereen. At the time she's like, screw it, I'm done with this pretending to be this person I'm not. It's time for some fire and blood and get on the dragon. Let's go.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I'm kind of surprised we didn't delve into this a little bit more, because it's either the actions of a petulant 14-year-old. She's 14 now, right?
Or 15.
The actions of a petulant 15-year-old overreacting to something that's happening, which I don't really think is true. Or it is a symbol, like James is saying, in which case she's made a choice. We all make those kinds of choices and reflect back on it and change our minds, but maybe she's made a choice that she's done with this compromise, like you're talking about, Anne, and what you were talking about before, and she's ready to roll her way, all her way. And when she comes back on Drogon, Meereen is either in for some shit, or she's just going to take her stuff and leave and go to Westeros thinking she's learned what she's needed to learn. Because that's the symbol to me. She's saying, I'm done with this. This is not who I am. I need to be me.
Yep.
All right, so we're hitting the 2-hour and 45-minute mark. So do you guys want to take, just 15 minutes? And then we can kind of answer as many questions as we can, not get too in-depth with it, and then
we just started doing that.
Yeah? Did we say the 15-minute mark?
Oh, no.
Yeah,
no.
So, all right, so about 15 minutes, and then after that we'll be okay. So, Sweet, you put up a question by T-Baby here?
Yeah. There was a second one. So when do you think Dany will head to Westeros, and where will she land in Westeros first?
Dragonstone.
Yeah, Dragonstone.
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 Hopefully by the end of Winds, I'm hoping.
What if she went straight to King's Landing?
I think it's a little anticlimactic. I don't know.
Why not?
Yeah, in her last chapter, she says Dragonstone all the time for it, like where the little hill where Drogon is, she calls it Dragonstone and repeats that all the time, too many times to not be a foreshadowing.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. the only thing that might change that is what Aegon's doing. There might be some urgency on her part to respond to that, and she might be forced to go somewhere else. I kind of tend to think it's going to be later rather than sooner. There's still at least 2 books left, and I think if she goes early, the whole Aegon thing would be kind of a build-up for nothing if he's only got a few POVs and Dany puts him down. So I think it's going to be still a little while before she shows up in Westeros.
To me, I think like it would be epic for the last chapter of Winds would be for her to finally get to Westeros. That's just me. I don't know if anyone else thinks that.
No, that's exactly my thought. What I would like is the last chapter is her landing on Dragonstone. I think it's gonna be Dragonstone, and I want it to be Dragonstone, symbolically and practically. Like, to arrive directly on King's Landing after such a long trip. Like, if you went to King's Landing directly, she would have to attack. And it's a long trip, a lot of people to organize it. It's easier to just take Dragonstone first, which is just smaller, get there, organize, see what the hell is going on Westeros, where they probably have a lot more information. And also symbolically, Dragonstone is the only place in Westeros where she's ever been. Granted, for like 5 seconds, but it's still where she was born. It's where her family originally landed. It's the castle of the heir to the throne. The heir before he became king was the Lord of Dragonstone, and stayed there. It's where the dragons do so well. It's just.
No,
that's also why Robert sent Stannis there.
Now, what would be?
He would be the next one.
What would be interesting is if she landed in Dorne and was welcomed by a party by Doran Martell and is like, so about your boy Quentyn.
Well, what about George always history repeating itself, not only in our world but in actually his world as well, with his own history. His own A Song of Ice and Fire history does kind of happen again and again. What about Daenerys landing at the wall but with a new gift, because we had I forget her name, but I think she wrote Silverwing up to the new gift, and it was a gift for the Night's Watch.
It was Jaehaerys' wife, I believe.
Yeah, or I forget her name. Anybody in the comments can help me out with that. I think that would be logical. It'd be a good spot because it's already happened before.
You think she'll land next to the wall?
Well,
by the way,
okay. Well, what if she went to Dragonstone and then maybe went up to the new gift after that? I don't see her maybe going straight to it.
Just it was.
Queen Alysanne.
Yeah, Queen Alysanne is what I was throwing.
Nice.
Yeah, Dany may have a very interesting choice to make when she lands, and that may be, hey, I hear things are going on up north and the kingdom needs my help. A very Stannis-like choice, right? Or perhaps maybe needing to contend with Aegon for what she thinks is her throne. Do I do what's best for the realm? Do I do what my heart has been seeking this whole time and going for the throne? If she believes Aegon's real, does she just take orders from him? There could be a lot going on in that choice.
I will say, if she does go north for the betterment of the realm, she will gain points in my eyes. Because that's part of the reason why I like Stannis. So if she does do that, she will get higher into my list.
You and me are soul sisters, James.
Exactly.
Soul sister! I'm not sure Aegon will still be alive. I wouldn't be surprised if he was dead or gone or found out before she lands, but
it wouldn't shock me either. Yeah.
Oh, but there needs to be they need to meet.
No, they don't.
Oh, come on. It's been like at the beginning he's going to go to her to marry her, then Tyrion convinces him to go to Westeros to do something so he wouldn't be the beggar. I mean, there has to be some kind of meeting, some kind of conference, some kind of something between them. If there isn't, I'm going to be terribly disappointed.
I'm looking for more questions. Sorry.
While you're looking, I'll just respond to that. I believe that there has to be more to Aegon as well. than them not meeting or whatever. But
So, very sorry,
funny.
so
What's
we're
going
not
on?
laughing at you, we're laughing at LT who's waking up, like Fear of the Walking Dead style.
Yeah. Brains. You're
All
muted, LT, man. You started snoring for a minute, so I muted you.
Yeah, sorry, Scott, go ahead.
Oh, that's all right. I would believe that there has to be more to the Aegon thing, and it has to be addressed in some way, except for what George just did with Quentyn. Quentyn, to me, it's not that he had no value, but it's just that I think that value could have been introduced without introducing a whole new POV that we followed for several chapters. And I think he could be doing the same thing with Aegon. This is a lesson for you guys to learn as readers, and I'm going to teach it to you heavy-handedly with a new POV character that I'm then going to wreck. And it wouldn't shock me, is all. I don't want that to happen. I want there to be a very lively plot around Aegon for a little while.
Well, but Aegon is supposedly the prince that got away, that was not murdered, that would be linked to both Dany and to Jon. There's so many potential from him. The mystery, whether is he or is he not, that to create all of that buzz for nothing.
Oh, I can see that happening. Him dying with us never knowing if he's real or not.
Yeah, I could too.
I will find J.R. Martin and strangle him until he tells me.
If he died, that way I would completely buy into the Fagon theory that he's not who we thought he was.
Well,
if he is actually Aegon, I don't see George killing this guy.
Or killing him without answers, without something epic, without something big. It has to be. I want him to be the real Aegon.
If it happens, then we can stop saying getting Quentyn and just be getting Aegon.
Shocking lack of knowledge. There's no Aegon POV, right?
No.
It's generally through John Con.
Or Connington.
And Victarion.
Yeah. John
See, I
Mormington.
think, like, the way I see it, let me finish Tinker before you yell. Like, the real big deal is John Con bringing Grey Plague over to Westeros, and Aegon is just, like, he's not the big deal in their story. We all think he's distracting us from the important thing, that is John Connington bringing a freaking disease over to Westeros.
Well, that disease already exists in Westeros. Shireen has it.
Yeah, but Shireen is not likely to really spread it. I don't know.
We don't know. I was rereading one of the chapters that I thought about you when I was reading it, Sweet, because the whole grayscale thing, and it's when Vals goes to meet with the Queen and with Shireen, and she gets freaked out. She's like, I want monster out of that tower. And it's like, but that's been stopped. And it's like, oh, no. It's just sleeping inside of her, and it will eventually wake up and infect people. So we're not certain. Like, God is convinced that she's not stopped and not cured. She might suddenly become active and start, I don't know, or weak or whatever, and start infecting other people.
Now, one thing I would say is, and my boy Tony Teflon said this: when there was no Aegon in the show, it means he ain't shit in the books. Because you got to imagine, if he was really Aegon, they'd cast him in the show. I'd believe that.
Yeah.
No, not if they don't want to take away some of the life from Jon. We've seen it before that they've changed things so that the limelight will stay on some main characters. For example, Tyrion. Tyrion is a beloved character. People love Tyrion. Look how they've changed him in the show. He's much more dislikable in the book. Some of the last, since he leaves King's Landing, some of the things that he's thought and done and whatever, there's moments that I just want to slap him. And I like Tyrion, but I just want to slap him silly. They haven't done that with Tyrion in the show. They've kept him just as likable, just as everything, so that people will still, come on, they're killing characters left and right. The characters that are still very likable, they still want people attached to them so they won't leave. So maybe they're just taking Aegon away because the main one is going to be Jon, and they don't want to take the limelight out of Jon.
Definitely. And my crazy murderess Cersei that I love in the books because she's batshit insane, she's not in the show.
Yeah.
So
Attila the Hamster is how I call her.
yeah, I respect Tony's opinion on a lot of things, but that's one thing like I disagree with him on. It's not
Well, ultimately, just gotta wait for Wednesday to come out. All of our questions will be answered.
Let's hope.
Well, yeah, I guess it's also possible that it won't get answered.
Yeah, no.
Let's hope, because there's 2 books, so we might not get any of our answers until the end. And let's see if they even actually gives us all of the answers, because I sometimes get the feeling that there are some things that he does without knowing all of the answers, which is why he purposely leaves some things very mysteriously. And then we might not be getting the answer to some of them because he just doesn't know them.
I would say one thing in the pro Aegon camp is the fact that when Varys killed Kevin, he told him that he was really Aegon, and how would you lie to a dying man? We went over that last time, but he could have also said it because he thought that to be, spies in the walls. But I digress.
Yeah, it's a good point, but you just can't trust anything that comes out of Varys' mouth.
No,
it's just a rule I follow. I just I don't remember who it was, and I'm stealing something that somebody else said, and I can't even attribute it, and so I'm sorry about that. But I read somewhere it doesn't matter whether Aegon's real or whether he isn't. It only matters what the people believe, and that's really what will write that story. And what I said before about maybe George is just trying to put this storyline in to teach the readers a lesson in some way. Maybe all he does is put Aegon into the story to show that the will of the people is what matters, and they end up meeting some fate that that we don't love anyway. But it proves a point to the readers that what matters is what the people want, or who would be good for the people. And then he meets an end, and the ruler that then takes over learns that lesson from Aegon or Fagon, whichever one he is. It doesn't matter.
I like
that. Makes sense.
I actually think there is some importance to whether he's real or not. One of the things that happens a lot during the books is that a lot of people do some very, very horrible things thinking it's for the better of our family, it's what needs to be done. That's the whole, it needs to be done for like our greater good, and do things that are absolutely terrible monsters, and then they get away with it, but then they don't. It comes back to them. And when I heard about Aegon, I really loved the idea that the fact that Tywin Lannister had ordered this horribly monstrous thing that he thought he'd gotten away with it, thinking this is what's really good, but that it hadn't really worked at all. And that somehow someone had managed to steal the one that was really important right under his nose. And that he really hadn't worked. All that evil, all that cruel, all that, this is what needs to be done, because this is what... And it hadn't worked. That someone had gotten like underneath him and helped Aegon escape. There's this whole thing in the books, it's like, it needs to be done. Let's kill them all, which it's not. It's not good. It's not what needs to be done. It's not what's good and what's honorable. And I love the idea that through all of his cruelty and all the things that he'd gotten away with it, this is one thing that he'd not gotten away with it. At the very end, he'd been killed by his own younger son that he tortured. His 2 precious children had done things that had caused the destruction of their family, and that this little kid had gotten away.
Well, I would say that George isn't always lilacs and roses, though,
No, not about that, but that there are consequences. That even if they think that all these cruel things, that there are always ways that...
I honestly, I can see it playing out either way.
Which is why I like the idea of Aegon. No, I'm not saying that this is why George does it, but I think that's what makes me want Aegon to be real.
I want him to be real too. I just don't know that I don't know that it matters too much. But the fan inside me wants it.
To me, it does matter for that, because it's the whole justice thing. Just oof.
Yeah, you're like, it's just like, to me, Tywin, he killed the kids for Robert. You know, it's not like it wasn't his personal vendetta against those kids, but he needed a big grand gesture after having been the hand of Aerys for so long. He needed to really do something huge for Robert to trust him because he still wanted power. So you see, that wasn't really
But
against the
exactly, it's
kids.
that I don't mean because of vendettas. I mean that they do these horrible, cruel things because they think that it's the best. It's for their interest, for the interest or of the whatever it is going on. And this time, the interest of him was to get into Robert's side, so he does this monstrous thing and killed these innocent children because he was like, "Oh, this will benefit me," and I like the idea that he didn't get away with it because killing children is wrong.
That's
Oh.
killing children is wrong, and that's
Definitely not right.
borderline a good spot to end this. Does anybody have any kind of final thoughts? Anything else they want to throw in there? I was looking. I didn't see any more
No.
questions.
I guess they're all
about.
keeping their good questions for the Clash of Queens.
Yes, they are. For the Clash of Queens. What'd you say? That's in 2 weeks?
That is in 2 weeks. The link is in the description box of this very video, and you can I mean, we already have chosen, because we want to try to have it being sort of a shorter format, somewhat shorter, although I am sure it's going to like go on and on and on. But we selected already the 4 questions for the first episode. We received a lot of amazing questions, so I really want to thank all of the people who left us amazing questions. Thank you. I'm sorry if I forget people, but we wrote down all the questions, so we will always have them and not lose any. But thank you for Thunderclap because he submitted the first question. Thank you to James, you're here. Thank you for I cannot finish that sentence. Thank you to Steffi. Thank you to Jerry for submitting 20,000 questions. They were all great. And please continue sending us questions on the Hypeswatch Google Plus community, on Twitter, anywhere.
I'd like to thank Scad for being here today, man. It was a great addition. I really enjoyed it, man. I really did.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. I'm not used to this live thing with being on the camera and people listening live, but it was a lot of fun. Is this where I drop in my what's coming next for me?
Yeah, plug it in. And there's
Yeah.
I've actually seen a lot of people in the comments that is like, who the hell is this guy? And I'm like, it's Davos's finger. So if you could tell him one more time to where to find you, and if you want to send me some more links about what you're doing, I'll put them in the description as soon as you send them. So even people that watch this in the future, they know where to find you.
I see a few people in the chat that are like, who's this asshole on my channel that I enjoy?
No, there's also a couple people that are like, yeah, Scott Moore, yeah.
Well, if you want more of the SCAD, which is a nickname that my podcast co-hosts Brooke and Matt have given me over the years, you can find us at davosfingers.com. We do we're doing a full reread analysis. We started on Game of Thrones. We just finished A Clash of Kings, and we're starting in the Storm of Swords in late November. So we're on a little bit of a little off-season little break at the moment. But if you're interested in chapter-by-chapter analysis, we get in there. We do it with some levity. We do it with some popular cultural references. We do it with some fun. And that's our whole shtick, just having a chat. The three of us are friends, and a lot of people that we've talked to just think the main thing about our podcast is our chemistry and how we get along as friends when we're doing our analysis. So if you're interested, come check us out. That's davosfingers.com. That's our Tumblr site, and you can find us on iTunes and stuff. Just looking up Davos Fingers.
It's
and
good
thanks. Yeah. Thanks, Hypeswatch, for letting me be here. It was a blast, man. I had a lot of fun with you guys, so thanks. I enjoyed it.
It always is a lot of fun, man, and I just want to tell you thank you again for coming by. Everybody, I want all of you to sign off about today and where people can find you. LT, if you do want to say something, you're going to have to unmute yourself, sir. But Sweet YFT, you want to go first? I thank you for being here. You're my #1 partner in YouTube, so thank you.
Thank you for having me. Yes, again, you can find me on Twitter. I'm there all the time. You can find me on YouTube. I say that all the time. My YouTube channel is not really a Game of Thrones channel. Like I do host some Game of Thrones videos there, but if you like, I don't want you guys to subscribe to my channel and not see a lot of Game of Thrones content and be disappointed. So all of the Game of Thrones videos hosted on my channel will be like hyped by the Hype Watch on Google Plus, on Twitter. You will be warned about them. My channel is a lot of different things, pretty much like. Who said that? Anything that goes through my mind. I want to do Paris vlog that I know I promised I would do this summer, but then I had a lot of my plate this summer, and now the weather is getting crappy, so I don't know really. I'll try to do a little bit of it. I do some advice video once in a while when I get good questions asked. I really love doing them. I do a couple like what I call new in video. They're like girly video, fashion, beauty, things like that. And yeah, really pretty much anything that goes through my mind. I haven't really had time to make a lot of videos lately because I was focusing all of my energy on hyping the Hype Watch. But yeah, that's all.
Yes and no.
Thank you again for having me. I love doing this reread to the Hype Watch. It's great fun. As I said, you can find me as Hizdahr Zo in YouTube and in Twitter. And I do Game of Thrones videos, but I also do about other nerd things. Star Wars, Marvel, if DC releases something, a trailer or something, I'll also do DC. I know that you love DC, Dom.
I do. Yeah. Oh, LT, what was that?
First of all, I'm sorry. I want to apologize to everybody for falling asleep. I do work graveyard shift, so I apologize on that. And I don't know how I muted myself, but yeah, I apologize, everybody.
I told them all that. You're totally in the clear, man. I'm just glad you made it for when you did. James, what about you?
Yeah. Hey guys, my name is James Michelle, as you guys know, and I want to say that it is an honor, nay, a privilege to be with the folks here on the Hype Watch doing this reread. I do Game of Thrones stuff, Song of Ice and Fire, of course. I'm going to be starting to expand, do some Star Wars things and some other stuff, some top 10 lists and stuff like that. And hey, I just appreciate being here. Everyone in the chat, you're the best. Watch the Clash of Queens because they're awesome. I'm out.
All right. I just want to thank everybody in the chat room or everybody that will watch this later for coming by and giving us 3 hours and change of your time. And stay tuned to all of us on social media, especially the Hype Watch on Twitter and Google+, and all of us individually as well. We will let you know when the North remembers, when it will be. That is our next chapter reread, The Great Davos and Wyman Manderley. So everybody stay tuned. We love you. We love all of you guys. Everybody, thanks for coming by today. It was so much fun, and we will talk to you later. See ya.